This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to a very hot andBeyond in Ngala, where we've just seen 3 adorable little lion cubs disappear into the thick grass there. It is really hot, and you can hear some calling coming from the back there. And they've met up with the mother now, and they're probably getting a little bit groomed there. Now, this afternoon we set out to see if we can come and have a view and catch up with these little lion cubs, where they have been feeding on a wildebeest carcass for the past few days, and it is their first carcass. So we might have to move to see if we can get another view of them. On a hot day like this, the shade is what they took. So, welcome to your live safari and from the African wilds. So you can see they've just come to the shade. The mother's moved, and you can see she's got a little bit more energy now that she's out in the shade. It looks like the one little one's come to try and drink some milk, and the other one's looking for its sibling in the tall grass. You can just see the grass moving, and there we go. Always a game of cat and mouse, eh? I'm Yapi, and behind the camera we've got Owen. And how fortunate are we this afternoon to get to have a view of this? I think maybe in part the reason why the mother's moved is she was in quite a tight spot, and it would have been difficult for her to lay around and get these 3 little ones to suckle. And the interesting thing is that they look so comfortable and they look so fluffy at this point, but for her this is actually quite the situation. It's not always as easygoing as one might think. You can see she's panting heavily. If you look at the throat, you can see the fur moving up and down, the mouth's wide open. And then she's looking back the whole time and listen. Just have a listen out to those noises. And once they've all got a teat, it looks like now the rivalry's over. Well, that's pretty interesting to me, at least. Like, there's only 3. She's got more than enough milk at this stage. It's lioness in her prime, and the little cubs are in a very, very good condition from what I can see. There are 1 or 2 mangy spots on them, but I've noticed just now that the fur is already starting to grow back, so that's a very, very good sign. And I think and they'll be okay from here. They've been fed well lately, and that's why they look strong. You don't always think about it, but there's a lot of competition going on there at that stage, and I think from what I can see, it looks like the one right in the middle with his head in there, that's the young male. And already we can start to see a little bit of a size difference between him and the other two. And he uses that to his advantage very, very well to make sure that he gets milk when he needs to. You can see a tail flicking. Nut check, if I got your name correctly. It is utterly adorable, I agree, and the best way to start the tribe with. I think it's a good start to the afternoon, the fact that we get to see them moving about a little bit. And that's amazing. When I arrived, they were nibbling at the carcass. But at this stage, I think it's something so new to them that they are still very dependent on the mother's milk. And this moment is a big moment for them. I'm pretty sure the last time she fed them was probably this morning. But it gets a little bit irritating, and I think that's what she is trying... what she is trying to endure there. I had a look and I see their teeth looks quite healthy at this point as well, so it can't be too comfortable. Looks like one might have had enough. How amazing is that? All three of them just went and rubbed themselves up against the mother's chin, just to show their appreciation and strengthen that strong family bond between them. Well, I think we are going to stay with these animals in the shade here for a little while longer and see what they do, and then we'll send you over to Phinda where we'll see what they're up to this afternoon. Okay, well, I haven't gone to Phinda yet, so you can see curiosity's kicked in now. I can see the one staring at us through the grass. Now they've got a little bit more energy, so there's a little bit of play going on. There's a constant flicking of ears. And also a very alert mother, just scoping out the scene. I think that's because she's also checking for any possible intruders, which I can assure you will be rapidly chased off. But in heat like this, you can actually feel how uncomfortable that lioness is. If you look at her, she's not sure exactly how to lay or how to place herself on the ground because it's hot in that grass. And she's full, she's got a very full belly. For her to digest also takes quite a bit of her energy. And having a good meal like that, all to herself and the little ones, it will take a while, and that's why they've been here for the past, this is now the third day they've been here. Now you would wonder why wouldn't there be more hyenas or other potential predators like lion? There are a lot of lions in this area and you never know. But I think this lioness is well safe in the central part of their territory as we know it. The fact that you stay here, we haven't seen her sister back here. She was here on the first morning, and I think that's because her sister's also tending somewhere nearby. Olivia, that is a very good question. What age do cubs stop being fed milk? Now, I had a little debate yesterday with one of my friends and, well, more of a discussion, not a debate, but we were talking about how we've noticed variances in that, and I guess you might read regularly and hear that it can be up to about 9 months. And when they get weaned, between 6 and 9 months. But around 6 months is usually a good time. However, with this particular pride, I remember this lioness have had, so this is her 4th litter now that I know of. And I've seen her since she was a very young lioness. And the first litter that she had unfortunately didn't make it, but her mother and her sister's litters, they were all weaned very, very early on. Like at 3.5 months to 4 months, they've already weaned, and the lionesses didn't have any milk to feed the cubs with properly. Out of that litter, only 2 survived, and one of those 2 is a half sibling of this one that's got 2 older cubs, which we haven't seen in a while. But then her last litter and her sister's last litter, we've seen some of them feed up until way after a year. In fact, an interesting thing, she is part of the pride with the white lions, and we have noticed that the white lions in particular, the young male, we saw him fed all the way up until 1.5 years. Not of his own mother, but of one of the other lionesses, because all the lionesses were, the way they gave birth and the time span between the litters were of such a nature that one of the lionesses had milk at any given time, and it lasted almost up until 1.5 years, or more than 1.5 years, from when the first litter of cubs was born from this female sister. Mikal, how many cubs can they have? It is normally up to about 4, anything from 2 to 4. But unfortunately, a lot of them don't make it to adulthood. They have been recorded as having more than 4 cubs, but it's normally 4 would be the max. Have a look at little cub going for the jugular there, and the fluffy chin of the mother. It looks quite playful, and it is. That's really the future survival instinct kicking in. Those play movements will become the techniques that they'll use to bring down prey when they're older and stronger. What I find amazing about being fortunate enough to spend time with these animals, especially this lioness and her pride, just because they are one of the prides that we see in this area regularly. Because the way she's grown as a mother, her first litter was kind of abandoned. Both she and her sister abandoned their litters at that stage, and they were just over 4 years old. And then she's lost one litter to male lions and one that she's raised to adulthood. So we'll see how it goes with this one. But while they enjoy the shade and try to ward off the flies, we are going to head over to Phinda and see what they are up to this afternoon.
Welcome to Phinda, and it's awesome that you can join us for your live safari today. We found a big bird of prey. I haven't managed to identify it just yet, but I do think it's a tawny eagle. It's quite difficult. We are quite far away from it, but looking at it, it has a dark eye, which gives me the feeling that it's a tawny eagle now that I've had a little bit more time to look at it now that it's raised its head. You see, it's also got quite a long gape, that little piece of skin that carries on behind the beak onto the head. And on a lot of the bigger eagles, that is quite pronounced, but it's very pronounced on a tawny eagle, which are quite difficult to identify usually because they are quite variable in terms of they change, or their plumage is different from one bird to the next. And other birds that you could confuse it with are like the lesser spotted eagle, which is a little bit smaller than a tawny eagle, but it's also difficult. Like I said, it's about 10 centimeters smaller, and at a distance it's very difficult to tell whether the bird is a certain size or not. But I'm very, very glad to have been able to find it this afternoon. My name is Angus, and behind the camera today we have Simon. It's got such a beautiful its feathers are really, really beautiful because they've just got that looks like blotches on them, which is also not very, makes it look spotty almost. Maybe it would make someone think it could be a lesser spotted eagle, but they usually have a paler eye, like I mentioned earlier. Can you hear some frogs calling off in the background as well as cicadas? Ellen, yes, this bird is a scavenger. So not solely a scavenger, but if there is a carcass nearby, you often find tawny eagles around in the area. They are one of the bigger eagles that we get here in Zululand. So they are able to chase away other birds that would be coming to scavenge as well, which makes them quite good at it because they are quite big and obviously dangerous to a smaller bird of prey. quite a lot of things here in the African bush are very opportunistic. So you also get other types of raptors like yellow-billed kites, which are reasonably common around South Africa at this time of year. They will be migrating within the next month or two though. But yellow-billed kites will also be seen around carcasses, and they will scavenge too. Still just looking at it and wondering if perhaps it could be something else. The tawny eagle has quite a big, strong bill, and this one doesn't look very, very robust like that. No, I do think it is though. I'm just looking through my field guide now, if you want to have a look here. Giante, I have no idea basically. They do change their plumage quite often. If you look in my field guide here, you see this is what I presume it is, a tawny eagle. Can you see from there, Simon? So you can see a tawny eagle, and you can see it's very variable like this, and that's why it's quite difficult to tell how old they are. And then other things that could be are like a lesser spotted eagle and a steppe eagle. They are some of the other big brown eagles that we get here. So we'll try to get a little bit closer at some point, and then we'll be able to tell exactly what it is. Maybe you can even get a better picture of it than I can with my binoculars. I think this camera can get in quite tight. And things we'll look out for, especially when they're flying, that'll also give us a better indication of what they look like under the wings. But have a strong suspicion it's a tawny eagle, especially with the habitat that it's into. And there is actually a carcass quite close by. You can see its legs now. Which is something else that we'll try and identify birds with. You'll see eagles always have feathers all the way down to their feet. So they have feathered legs. And whether or not those feathers are very, very fluffy or quite tight around the legs is one way that we're able to tell whether or what type of bird it is. I'm really, really struggling to get a good look. Yeah, it looks like those feathers aren't very tight on the legs, so I think it's probably a tawny eagle. So we're going to try and sneak a little bit closer to this eagle, just so we can get a better look at it, hopefully. And we're going to send you over to Proudlands with Steve.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Proudlands. Welcome to a wonderful quiet moment just here below Leopard Dam in the drainage. My name is Steve Falkenbush, joined by Johan on camera again, and isn't it just wonderful just to listen to the sounds of the birds. We're going to go back into sort of the bushes and keep listening. I don't know if you can get that fork-tailed drongo right over there, Johan. And just listen to the birds calling. Oh, he's just gone off. Wonderful sounds of the grey-headed bush shrike, the emerald spotted wood dove. The shrike. Isn't that beautiful? Afrikaans, they call that shrike the spookvoël. is the ghost bird. So Johan and myself are going to be doing a spot of birding this afternoon. See what birds we can get for you on camera. And we'll also talk a little bit about the ecology and the breeding behavior. It's always nice to add a little bit of information in that regard. And the grey-headed, as well as the other bush shrikes, as the name implies, like to be in these sort of riverine thickets. And they're all very much insectivorous, but will take small vertebrates, chameleons, lizards, small snakes, and the grey-headed even takes birds and bats. Their calls make it very hard to find them. I find with all of the bush shrikes that there's a bit of a ventriloquist sound to it. A bird can be calling and you look for it and you're always looking in the wrong place. But those very low resonant sounds enable it to communicate in dense vegetation, just like the Ngala and the kudu. They've got that very loud call. It's all to do with their habitat. There's no point being able to make a certain noise if it doesn't actually go anywhere. And the bush shrikes like these small little shallow cups. A shallow cup nest, an upper branch. Lusa, that bird you can hear, is the ghost bird, the spookvoel, the grey-headed bush shrike. Very pretty bird. We can also hear a green spotted, emerald spotted wood dove. There's a couple of waxbills calling. Cheep, cheep, cheep. So, what I love about birding, everybody, is it forces you to go to different habitats. If you want to find new birds, you have to go to different areas to find them. So we're going to be going to a variety of different areas on the property this afternoon and see what wonderful birds we can find.
Just look at that. It is absolutely incredible. And as far as I can see, that all falls within the reserve. So it is a vast landscape, but we are gifted with these incredible things, you know, the wildcats, the aardvark, you name it. It just keeps on delivering. It's just such an incredible privilege to be out here.
And when you think it could not get better, Mother Nature says, hold on tight.
Oh my word, that is gorgeous. We are cooking on gas this afternoon.
Have a look at what we've got. Look at how this is the best day of my gutting career so far.
We have a baby pangolin, We're just gonna go very quietly. There's your aardvark. And for those of you who've never seen one, this is one of the big safari specials on any reserve.
I'm just holding my cap because otherwise it's going to blow away, and with this storm coming towards us.
Absolutely beautiful to be able to see water flowing in this volume in the Kalahari. Oh, look at that. You can see the structural component of these flowers. It is perfect. Such a treat to be in and amongst these incredible insects. How lucky are we? You can see how close they are to the vehicle. Very curious. Oh, you can do it! There we go. We made it over. Whew. But look at that view. That's absolutely stunning.
You can see how they're going into stalking mode.
Okay, there we go.
This one female is gonna walk straight past the car now. Absolutely stunning. Look at that. I mean, do we just not have the best jobs in the world? That was epic.
Welcome back. So we've managed to get ourselves a little bit closer to this tawny eagle. And I say tawny eagle now because we have managed to get a good look at it. And I think it's safe to say now that this is a tawny eagle. It's a lovely, lovely bird. And it looks like at the moment I saw it just puff up its feathers earlier while we were off air. And it looks like it might have got a little bit wet. There was a bit of rain here at Phinda last night, and a little bit of rain throughout the day. So often when birds' feathers are wet, they don't fly very well, and it's not very hot today. It's quite a cool, pleasant day, which is not so good in terms of the birds being able to fly very economically. So they like hot, rising air on which to soar on. So usually birds of prey have very broad, big wings, which help them soar around and not use much energy. Because their wings are so big, they don't really have to flap them, and they'll use that hot, warm, rising air that I was talking about to actually just stay up in the air without using much energy at all. And then from there, they're able to just fly over the savannah and the bushveld. That's why you typically find tawny eagles in open areas like they are all around me now. And with that, then they'll be able to spot anything. I mentioned earlier that they are scavengers, so they'll be able to spot anything as they're flying over the savannah and the bushveld. So this one might even be quite well fed and won't really be actively trying to look for food. Perhaps it will a little bit later. They still are able to fly around, of course, if it's not very hot. It's just a lot easier for them if it is. Lovely to see it in this beautiful dead tree. New York class. It's a difficult question to answer exactly, but there is a bird called a dark-capped bulbul, which is very common in most parts of South Africa as you go through different provinces and different habitats. I know near Cape Town, the dark-capped bulbul gives away to a red-eye bulbul. So that is probably one of the most common ones. Then there's animals, especially in the bushveld region, like the emerald-spotted wood dove, which are also quite common. And they actually probably have my favorite bird callers comes from the emerald-spotted wood dove. It's very common, but it's found in the bushveld region, so whenever I hear it calling, I feel like I'm in a place that's quite wild, and I just feel like I'm in the bush, which makes me really happy. I wish one was calling around about here. Well, now that would be perfect. It'd be nice for all of you to listen to my favorite bird call. But it is quite synonymous with the African bush. I'm sure you would have heard it in the background during these WildEarth drives, be it in here or up in the Lowveld near Kruger National Park. You do find them quite a lot throughout South Africa. At the moment, it's quite interesting. There's quite a lot of European rollers. And European rollers are migrants, and this year there just seems to be so many of them. But at some point in the middle of next month, they'll probably be all migrating back up to areas like the Mediterranean, but they'll travel through Africa and stop in East Africa along the way. So we might sit here a little bit longer. I'll just see what it does. And we're going to send you over to Yapi, who has some feeding lines.
And we have the wildebeest. What an interesting scene we have here. You can clearly see that there are two of the little cubs actively feeding on the meat of that carcass. The mother's also started feeding again. There's a lot of grunts and small growls going in there. And it's amazing, over the two previous days and today, this is the first time that I've noticed this much interest from them within the dead wildebeest and the meat. Just have a look how out of breath the female is, and you can see that it does take effort. You can see a lot of flies buzzing in there. From the ones I recognized when I looked earlier was the regal blowfly, which is a very shiny blue fly with a orangey red head, and type of creature that lays its eggs on dead animals. Yes, Gabby, there are some vultures close by, mainly hooded vultures actually. I saw a white-backed vulture take off as we arrived, but at the moment there's 3 hooded vultures, which is a bit tricky to see from where we are, but they are around. They've been picking up the scraps in this area. Because this carcass has been moved twice now from its original position, but within about 50 meters or so. And I think the female's just been moving it to try and hide it away from vultures. But the hooded vulture is a very, very crafty bird, and it is very, very alert. It does actually pick up on these carcasses and the animals, even though they try to hide it away. And there we go, there's 2 of them up there in that jackalberry, using a bit of shade while they wait. Now you might wonder why they're not coming down. Some of them have come down, but they wouldn't come close, even though they don't pose any threat to even the lion cubs. They are unwanted, and the reason for that is their conspicuousness and the ability to attract other creatures. Usually where they are, tawny eagle, the battalier, even the jackal is not far. And then the hyena follow. There's not a lot of hyena around at the moment, but it is very possible for one to pick up on this. I know on the first evening I heard reports that there were 2 or 3 of them around this area, but I never heard any other came back, and I'm pretty sure it's because the lioness made sure that they don't come back. But the proximity of this carcass to the Timbavati riverbed and the area that it's in, we often have There's a lot of hyena activity and a lot of movement of hyenas and clans going through this area, so I'm a little surprised that we're not seeing any. Or maybe I'm just missing them. It might be a little bit further off in the shade where they'll hide, and we just can't see them from where we are at the moment. When pride members feed together around a carcass like this, they usually move quite a bit around the carcass, up and down. Try and get better angles to get to the areas where there's still good meat. It's been so intensely hot over the last 2 days. Moape have all the cubs' teeth fully developed. From what I could see earlier, I could see the canines have come out, but they don't look like they're fully developed yet. And I think by now it's only over the next few weeks that it'll develop a little bit better, and then they still have to go on to their final set of teeth, which will only start to develop a little bit later. And that takes quite a while with young lions. Sometimes more than a year and a half. But I did see some teeth earlier, and I think in part that's also why she hasn't brought them to carcasses where they actually have to get their own meat off. I think they're only at that stage now, which is usually around 7, 8 or 9 weeks. From where I am, I don't really have a view of them anymore, and I think I'm going to have to move to see if I can get a different view, because I can hear the sound of a large or a heavy thing dropping on the ground, so I'm thinking that this lioness is actually busy moving it. So I'm just going to reverse slightly back, see if we might have a different angle. See one cub there, but the lioness herself has moved behind tall grass, so from where I am I can't see them, but you can see, oh, that one got deterred by a fly there. I always find it funny when the one cub goes and eats on a certain part of a carcass. You'll notice that the other ones will come over to come and investigate. And so there's always a little bit of a sibling rivalry going on, when it comes to food at least. And one's struggling to get a piece of grass out of his mouth. Some of these grasses, the grass blades have quite long hairs on them, and these hairs actually sometimes irritate the throat, or it gets stuck like halfway down the throat and onto the tongue with the little ones, and then you often see them struggle a bit. And I can see that one moved off just now, and you can see the little paw swipe to the face is trying to get rid of the flies. And I've been sitting here, and some of them has actually been biting me. So I'm sure they're also trying to bite those little ones. Well, we'll see. We might move around, see if we can get a different view of these little lions feeding. And in the meantime, we're going to head over to Tristan at Djuma for him to say hello.
Kind of late to the party in many respects, but scratching around and trying to see if we can find things, particularly around where Kalahari had her kill, and apparently Sabi was there this morning, so we've just been kind of having a look around there, but no luck as yet. But before we get into kind of a plan towards Chitwa, because on Chitwa there was the 4 torchwood lionesses were right on the boundary with torchwood. We didn't manage to find them yet, but I was expecting that maybe, just maybe, they might have moved or pushed, their presence pushed Thandi and the cub to move a little bit kind of into Chitwa. So we're now just checking around the airstrip, the quarry. This is the area where the wild dogs chased Thandi and Marips the other day, and where Kuchava was. So there's a lot of kind of potential in this particular section, and we're just going to just scratch around and see if we can pick up anything at all. You can see these fringes that run along the airstrip are the perfect place for a leopard to hunt, and that's because if you look in front of me, there is a whole myriad of impalas, a massive herd that is sitting on the airstrip, and so they kind of like this little open clearing part of the airstrip because they can see nicely. And so what the leopards do is they patrol basically on the edge of this clearing, and they wait for the impalas when the sun comes out to move into those wooded thickets on the edges, and they can then hunt them. And as soon as obviously the sun starts to disappear, the impalas start to come back out and into a more safe sort of zone. But hopefully, like I say, we'll get lucky and one of the cats will be out and about. I also got an update yesterday that there were dogs, so the Mbali Hamilton's pack had crossed back onto Chitwa late yesterday evening. Or was it yesterday evening or the evening before? I can't even remember now, maybe yesterday evening. And so I'll just scratch around in case they're still here. We know that they can travel huge distances generally in a morning game drive. So I would be very surprised if they're anywhere around, but you never know. Worth just having a little scratch just to see, and then we'll head back to Kalahari a little bit later. So lots of things on the horizon, or if we get a bit of a luck, we'll be able to kind of find. It's crazy when you start to talk about the amount of leopards that I've just mentioned that we're looking for this afternoon. It seems like it's being a little bit greedy in many respects, but they're also closely stacked together at the moment that the opportunities from Chitwa to the Mulawati, which is not very far at all, allows us to look for basically 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different cats, 9 different cats actually at the moment. It sounds crazy, but that is the case. So Mulawati, and then Sabi and the 2 cubs, Kuchava and her cub, and Indian cub. That makes the 9 different leopards that are visible within, at the moment, what is probably about a square kilometer. So it makes sense to be in this area. There's a lot that goes on. We know that Chitwa is often a hive of activity, and especially of late, for some reason, and I'm not sure exactly what it is, the leopards particularly have been absolutely loving hanging around the Mulawanini. They've been spending a lot of time there and a lot of time around Chitwa Camp, and I wonder if it's got to do with the fact that the camp is quite quiet at the moment. It's a really nice, safe place for cubs to be put. It is nice, isn't it, that the impalas are out and about. I like your enthusiasm about impalas, and that their kind of presence out here. You say you love it that they're out and about. It is nice. They're such a beautiful animal, and we so seldom, I think, give them the credit they deserve. They're an animal that really does shape the ecosystem that we're in, and if it wasn't for these guys, we certainly wouldn't see the same numbers of leopards that we do. There's a direct kind of correlation between huge prey numbers and the ability to house as many leopards as we see. And so we do need to appreciate them more. And it's nice in a place like this where you get a really big herd. I mean, this is a herd of probably, let's say 100. What do you reckon, David? 100? Yeah, I reckon about 100. At least impalas. And so it's always nice when you see them and you stop and you watch and you see all the little tails flicking and the ears going. It's kind of a hive of activity within the herd as the flies irritate them. And they'll slowly but surely now be starting to kind of cross the airstrip and heading into a little bit more of an open clearing, just to stay out of trouble. And fortunately the bush is so thick at the moment, they have a lot to contend with when they're not in open clearings like this. All right, onward and forward. Let's go and see what else we can find and what other little gems are hidden on Chitwa this afternoon.
Imagine having your own secluded African bush home where you and your friends can enjoy the ultimate safari experience. If you sign up to be a WildEarth explorer, this could become a reality. Tumbeta House is located in the heart of Djuma Private Game Reserve, the home of WildEarth. You could win a chance to stay at this intimate wilderness retreat, offering you the rare and highly sought-after privilege of your own home in the bush. The prize includes 3 nights for 6 people and includes daily game drives, a chance to see the WildEarth camp, and have dinner with one of our guides. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the end of February 2021 and you could be heading to Djuma, the place that we call home. Available dates are limited, so terms and conditions apply.
Being a safari driver requires some serious multitasking ability. You've got to be able to talk, look at the road, steer, and occasionally get the vehicle into the right gear.
Do not crash into any trees. Oh, that's a dozy.
Just jump into the car and hope for the best, and you'll see where it takes you. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm surprised they're moving as fast as that didn't go well.
Who is the best driver? Well, me, of course, although some of the cam-ops might disagree. Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for WildEarth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on WildEarth.
We have a baby pangolin. This is off the charts. This animal is about from your fingertips to your elbow. That's the total length of this animal. This is unreal. This is like now my 4th Christmas in a week. We should do this more often.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Welcome back, everybody. We haven't gotten very far. Listening to bushwhack, the Deirdric's cuckoo. golden-tailed woodpecker. There's a couple birds milling around in this leadwood tree. I've had a few fork-tailed drongos there. If we go right over here, Johan. Sorry, just up there he is. There's a fork-tailed drongo. Looks like one anyway. The light's not great, everybody, but that leadwood is in full fruit at the moment, and lots of activity. Lots of insects laying eggs and moving about. Southern black tit calling. You can see the fork-tailed drongo is trying to catch something in the bushes. Fork-tailed drongo is part of the flycatcher family. It's just dropped down a centimetre. And they make beautiful little cup nests in the tree. They practice a behavior known as hawking, which is to fly from one branch to another, like that, and catch aerial insects. Very easy to identify the fork-tailed drongo from the African or the southern black flycatcher in that heavily forked tail. Although they look very similar, many people do confuse them. I think that is the objective from the flycatcher's point of view, because if golden-tailed woodpecker calling sounds like a golden chest being opened, that squeakiness you'd make if you heard a chest being opened. Black-headed oriole calling, they do a very nice woven nest as well, but they cover it in lichen and a bit of spider's webs. Woven cup, should I say. Debbie, well, pretty much all the animals you'll encounter have water requirements and needs. The entire bird, insect and animal kingdom is pretty much water dependent for the most part. Some of them are very good at adapting the ability to save water and conserve water, but they still need to get it somehow. Many birds can feed on insects to sustain that water. And so in saying that, many of our seed-eating birds actually feed their chicks insects at the nest because they can't bring them water. Just like the mammalian placenta, birds are born in eggs or hatched in eggs with yolk. So there's fluid and liquid in there. The crested barbet churring behind us. So yes, indeed, they do need to get water of some sort. And off goes a hornbill flying across. So they either have to physically drink or they get it from their food. And so you'll get seed eaters will be doing a lot more drinking than insect eaters. But many of them will also bath. They like to keep themselves clean. And there's no avoiding the rain. Seanak, we also get the square-tailed drongo, which is more of a forest dweller. You find them down in KZN and up against the mountain, so in the forests, where some areas that do actually overlap. But you don't get the square-tailed drongo here in the Lowveld. But they look very similar. Obviously, one's got a forked tail, and yes, you guessed it, the other one a square tail. But behaviorally, very, very similar. Very similar, but so similar that they compete with each other. Hence why you get birds that are very similar in relation to each other. One will occur somewhere and the other one will not. It's kind of how it works. Always nice to just spend a bit of time at a watering hole. And Johan was asking me, why don't we see many aquatic birds at this watering hole? And this watering hole hasn't had an enormous amount of water in it over the years, so hasn't really got, I suppose, the aquatic life that would attract the sort of fish-eating birds. Is that a red-billed buffalo weaver? It is indeed. Red-billed buffalo weaver, as we've seen before, with wonderful big nests. We'll stay here a moment longer, see what other birds we can get, and we're going to send you over to andBeyond Phinda with a grumpy herd.
Somewhere.
Welcome back. We've managed to find a herd of buffalo, and something quite interesting has just happened. That looks like a youngish male buffalo was trying to mate with a female now, which is, I don't think he looks like a very old bull just yet. So I think they are, you can see that female has a little red-billed oxpecker on her back, and the one to her left looks like a male, but he doesn't look like a very big dominant male, so it might even be, well, that's why I said it's quite interesting, because it's not really often that you have the younger males being able to mate with females in the herd. He definitely wasn't successful, but it would be very interesting to see if he did it again. That was quite funny. You can see he didn't really know what he was doing. You can see I mentioned an oxpecker earlier, and these are red-billed oxpeckers. They have a solid red bill. I mentioned them because quite recently here at Phinda, some yellow-billed oxpeckers were sighted, which is extremely rare for the region. I think they used to exist here, and people have tried to reintroduce them back into the Zululand area, but they haven't really been successful so far. So since I think the early 1900s, there have only been 7 recorded sightings of them in Zululand. So it's really cool that we're able to, well, I didn't get to see them, but that's why every time I see an oxpecker now, I just make sure that I have a closer look. And I know a lot of birders are very, very interested in trying to see it too, but it hasn't been seen since. But for the next few months, I'll definitely be double checking every oxpecker I see. So it looks like these buffalo, well, they've stopped moving now, but we initially saw them about 50 meters away. So they've moved about 50 meters in the space of around 10 minutes, which isn't that, they're not really moving very quickly. They also don't really seem to be eating, so they're taking it quite easy. They might be, you see a few of them are looking up at us, so they might have changed their behavior slightly because we've arrived. But it doesn't look like they're very bothered, which is a good thing. And there is a watering hole just behind us, so it's likely they are probably going to head there sometime soon. Buffalo are very water dependent animals, so they do spend a lot of their time wallowing. They have very thick skin, and of course their fur is also dark, so not really on a day like today, but when it's very hot, you can imagine how much sunlight they absorb. You can see there's a little bit of commotion going on there in the background, and I think it might be that young male up to his tricks again. You can see the buffalo on the very left is a female, so we know that because if you look at her horns, there's skin on the top of her head basically, so the horns don't really fuse in the middle, which is how we tell, especially when they're in long grass like this, if it's a female or a male. And that one behind her, you can see that those horns have fused. Maybe it is actually an older one. It's difficult to say, I suppose. But no, I don't think anything's going to happen here. So I mentioned how they will be grazing for most part of the day. At the moment they aren't. But there is a lot of grass here called guinea grass, which is extremely palatable. So that means that it's very nutritious, and a lot of grazing animals will really enjoy feeding off of it. So I've got one here, and you can see that this is the terminal inflorescence, so where all the seed of the grass is, and this is how it reproduces. So these will be carried on through, they'll get spread around by animals, and that's how the grass will spread itself from one place to another. They can also reproduce, or the grass can also grow asexually, so basically this stem extends, and it can also just spread roots, and it sends runners through the ground. So that's how it would spread so, in the rainy season, how it spreads so quickly. And it's I was mentioning how nutritious it is, and buffalo eat it quite a lot, especially during this rainy season. If you look at the bottom, one way to tell is all these little branches on the very bottom of the end of all the inflorescence all come from one whorl, that singular place there. So they all start at the same place, and then as you go further up, you see there's just single ones that come off. But very nutritious, and this is probably what most of the animals now are feeding on. Billy, who's only 7 years old, wants to know how fast buffalo are. So buffalo are quite fast. They're definitely faster than you and I are, Billy. They can run upwards of 40 kilometers an hour. So I've heard reports. It's quite difficult to get an accurate measurement, but between 40 and 50 kilometers an hour. And I think I've done some calculations before. The 100-meter world record, if you take the time and work out how fast they ran on average over that distance, Usain Bolt was running just over 40 kilometers an hour when he set that record. Obviously, that's not taking into account the start, where they are running a little bit slower, but you get an indication of how fast they can actually run if you think about that. So not one of the fastest animals in the bush, though. Animals like lions and leopard can run about 80 kilometers an hour, which is, if you think about what I've just said, that's extremely fast. So buffalo won't necessarily be able to outrun those animals, but you see them in big herds like this, and that's how they keep themselves safe. They live in big groups, and they will actively try and help each other and defend one another. And they also have these big horns. And obviously they're very big animals, so it's very dangerous for animals like lions to try and actually attack a buffalo. And it's often a very long, painstaking process when it does happen. So usually it'll be a buffalo that's isolated. If they're all in a group like this, it's very, very dangerous for any animals to try and hunt them. So we are mentioning lions now. We're going to send you over to Ngala, who have some with them at the moment.
And we're still sitting around a feast here with this lioness, which have now really gotten into her meal. And I've been watching it carefully, and it's interesting to notice how she's feeding. You can see she's having a glance up at a vulture that's just been going over, always making sure that those vultures are not coming down too close to the carcass. But from what I can see, she's got herself a nice shady spot there, and she is very well hidden. It looks like she's trying to get that soft meat off the cheek of that wildebeest, if I'm not mistaken. You can hear small bones cracking there, which might be the bones around the back of the jaw or around the eye. Lapi, if I got that name correct. Do lions feed every day? No, they don't actually. Well, in the wild, it's tricky for them to get food every day. They do have a daily requirement for meat. And if they can, they will. In small amounts, or smaller than what they would have when they have a large meal. For this lioness, she'd be able to eat as much as 3 to 4 kilograms of meat a day if she had to. But she doesn't always, especially not this time of the year. And that's why you can see she's trying very hard to get to all the meat parts of this buffalo. And look at that, you can clearly see she's shifted the part that she's chewing on right into the corner of the mouth. And then if our viewers can hear the noises, you can hear it's almost like a cutting sound. And she's got very, very sharp teeth on the side of the jaw that we call carnassials, and they almost act like a scissor. They fit perfectly into each other, and they've got a very sharp cutting edge, and that is to bite off or cut off bite-sized chunks. Now she's looking around, and I think she might want to move the carcass to get to another part. And here we see one of the younger ones. If that happens, then we might have to reposition. Have a look. I almost thought she's going to use the paw there to drag it round or pull it over. And what I might do is move maybe 1 meter forward. See if we get a better view that way. You can see she's breathing very heavily now, and it is still quite hot here, and all the effort of moving that carcass every now and again to get to the other available meat pieces. The heat. And I'm sure when she chews off pieces, she's also, like us at points, she keeps her breath. At certain points when she chews. So we're going to sit here to see if she does eventually move it. And in the meantime, we'll send you over to Phinda, where they are at the watering hole.
Wow, wow, wow. So, I mentioned earlier when we were with those buffalo that there was a watering hole very close by that they could be making their way towards. And we were just driving past, and I just thought this is so beautiful. And as that happened, one hippo just lifted its head out the water and had a huge yawn, which is something really, really special to see, especially in a beautiful setting like this with that sun coming through the clouds. You can see some ripples coming off of those, or spreading out from where those hippo are. You can see they're actually doing quite a lot in that water. I think they might be interacting with each other. They're moving around a little bit. So I think it's definitely worth just sitting. There we go. See, one of them has just burst out of the water there. There was a Wahlberg's eagle calling now. I can just see it. You won't be able to get it on camera now. See, it's calling now. wow, I'm so lucky to be able to sit here and be here, and I'm so happy that you all with us here live right now. There's actually 2 pods of hippos in this dam at the moment. Those buffalo, I can see them from here. They aren't really moving at the moment. I was hoping they might start coming down to the water. I think they will eventually, but it's difficult to tell exactly when they'll do it. So I mentioned there's 2 pods of hippos here. It happens quite often in areas like this where watering holes are quite limited. So usually pods of hippos don't really stay too close to each other in big water systems like the Zambezi River, for example. But where water is scarce, they are tolerant of one another. And that's probably what is happening here. Yes, Leighton, I love it too. That's one of the reasons why when we were driving past, I just thought, no, had to stop. I love the sounds they make now, or when they just come up out of the water and they blow air out of their noses. Like that one just did now. Here's some white-faced whistling ducks also calling down from the water's edge. I saw 2 of them flying just as we got here. And that Wahlberg's eagle's just sitting on top of a dead tree and just calling away. I'm really hoping that one of the hippo will lift its head out of the water soon and hopefully yawn again. You can see those ones on the left are actually the one on the very left's just gone down now, looked quite young. Sometimes mother hippos, see now there's a bigger one next to it, sometimes mother hippos will actually move their young away from the big pod or family group, and they'll suckle their young and look after them for the first month or at least a couple of weeks away from the pod. I think it might be to just protect the youngsters. It's quite interesting, they actually suckle underwater. And this pod on the right is coming a little bit closer to us. And these beautiful fever trees in the background behind this dam. You'll notice fever trees, they're quite synonymous with Africa, with that pale yellowy white bark. Initially, when Europeans first got to Africa, they thought that powdery bark or something from the fever tree was making them sick, and that's why it's called a fever tree. But fever trees usually grow along drainage lines and wet areas, which is obviously perfect environment for mosquitoes, and they were actually getting malaria from mosquitoes and had nothing to do with the fever trees. But obviously the name is stuck. If you look at a hippo's head, you'll notice that everything is very well adapted to living an amphibious life in terms of they So I mentioned how everything's on top of their heads. Sorry, I was just got a bit disturbed there, sidetracked. And they're perfectly adapted to living underwater most of the day and keeping as little of their body out of the water as possible. Obviously, Africa's quite a hot place most of the time. And you don't actually really see them out the water unless it's during the night when they're feeding. And of course, we aren't really moving around too much at night, so we don't see them very often. And sometimes in winter, when the water temperatures are a lot lower, they'll sometimes be seen basking in the sun. Let's just sit and listen to the sounds. For a few moments. Wow, this is just incredible. So peaceful listening to hippos. There were some little grebes calling, back right at the back of the dam. I heard a crested barbet now, and that Wahlberg's eagle has been calling quite a lot. And there's a tawny-flanked Prrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrrr
February is the month of love, and nature is no exception. Tristan and Trishala will be igniting the flame to discuss the bonds formed in the African wild. Sign up to become an explorer and join them by the fire on Sunday, the 28th of February. WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
Sometimes love wants to make you sing. And sometimes love wants to make you bow and fan your wings to your bow. For the southern yellow-billed hornbill, these are signs that love is in the air. These birds are destined for a season of monogamy at least. Breeding pairs are in it for the survival of their chicks. But before love commences, the male needs to woo his valentine with food in the form of nuptial gifts.
I'm Nikki here at andBeyond in Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the WildEarth website, head across to the Live Safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next WildEarth drive.
Guys, have a look at what we've got. This is better than my birthday. Look at that. This is the first time that I ever see cubs this small. This is so special. This has officially just become my best sighting of all times.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
There's a grounding earthiness to this place that we feel in our ancestors. It's a place where, believe it or not, we evolved as a human species, and anyone who's come to Africa will understand that. The connectivity that the continent has to the person and to people's souls is next level. I'm thoroughly looking forward to taking you on your next adventure when we explore all the small and big things.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Now we're looking at a squabble around a watering hole. Linus is obviously very, very thirsty. And the little ones have taken the chance to see this as a little adventure. You can see that call was to tell them that that might hurt a little bit. think she's done now and she's going to move back. These three have just been playing, and you can see every now and again it gets a little bit much and one gets angry, but that one slipped into the water and now it's completely wet. She's not done drinking yet. Well, I haven't seen it yet, but maybe she might have had a drink this morning, but I think it's also a chance that she was probably laying down the whole day around the carcass. Sometimes she does. She'll go a long period of time without eating, but she's been eating that rotten, dried out meat. I can imagine that she must be very, very thirsty. Samuel, that is a really good question, because how do those babies get to be as big as that mother there? Because they're so small at this point, and you can't imagine that one of them would turn into something like that. And that's because they will eat drink a lot of milk, grow nice and big and strong. And these little ones are very strong for their age. They're looking very good. And over the next few months and years, they'll develop their taste for meat. And the meat's high in protein, and that'll make them really, really strong, and they'll grow big. But she looks like she's moving back towards the carcass, and I think we will reposition to see if we can get a view of them walking. So it's always a little bit of an adventure. Minamu, I'm glad you think that was a cuteness overload. They are certainly very, very adorable. And this is probably my favorite age personally to view them at. You can see like that little walk, which is not even 60 meters, is certainly their highlight of the day. And you can see how they enjoyed that cool water. That's another thing you don't see too often, but it is so wet at the moment that these little cubs have grown up now with water. Well, have grown up. They're not grown up yet, but they've grown to this age with a lot of water in the nearby area. And for any lion that's been growing up in this area in the past 5 years, that's very, very unusual. And you can see it's play all the way. They always go for the mother's heels and the area around the chest and the neck, trying to jump up to try and grab an ear. And she's been really nice to us. She's found a open spot right in the shade, and good for us to have a beautiful view. So we're going to stick here for a little while longer with him, and then we'll head over to Tristan, where he's found another cat.
We found 4 of them. It's the tortured females, but we tracked them, and I was saying to David as I stepped off the vehicle, I was like, oh, let me see how far they go. I don't know really how these lions are on foot. This will be interesting. No sooner had it come out of my mouth than I had walked 10 meters into the bush, did a lion run from about a meter in front of me. So we know the answer now is that they typically run away and don't growl at you when you're very close to them. It was a little uncomfortable to have a lion move out from pretty much under your feet in long grass, but you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. It's part and parcel of the job that we have. I'm just glad that we've managed to find them. I've lost her already. Is she on the road now? Oh, wonderful. That will be much easier. I think they got a little bit of a fright when I walked, because where that one lioness is coming out of the bush there is exactly where I was standing and walking into the mitre drain there. So as she's emerged, the lioness in the front, I walked in there towards this little thicket, and like I say, these lions went bomb shelling out from underneath me, basically. You can see they're a little bit kind of perplexed as to what's gone on. And that's maybe why they've emerged a little bit now, is just to see, okay, who was here and what actually happened. It'd be quite cool to see if we can get a footprint of theirs and a footprint of mine where they're standing. I'll go forward a little bit once they move, or when they settle down a little bit. Amazing how you don't see them. I was just talking to David now and saying, you know, if you can't see 4 lions in the grass, how do we expect to actually see things like leopards, snakes, you know, small cats? It's near impossible at the moment. There really is very little way to be able to find these guys in the kind of grass length that we are currently experiencing. We're going to have to be very lucky over the next few months for animals to basically just be out on the roads like this more than anything else. But at least they have come out onto the road, which is a good thing. I thought we were going to have to try and explain to you that there was lions around, because at one point we had zero visual of them just now, even though we knew where they were. They thankfully have woken up, as you guys have come across, and have all started to get up and move out into a nice open clearing. It actually only seems like there's 3 of them. I was told that there were 4. I only see 3 at the moment. It looks like the lioness that's got the cubs, or cub, should I say, is not here. It means maybe she left them yesterday, because we know that we had 4 yesterday morning, and has maybe gone to wherever the cub is to go and suckle for a little bit, and she'll kind of rejoin these guys when she does. As much as it's nice to see this particular grouping of lions, it's not nice to see them where we are right now. Where they are right now is kind of Thandi and Mariep's playground. We're right near those little rocks in the Muluwanini, where we've been seeing them so much of late. And it's always a danger when you get lions kind of hanging around that section. And it seems like their tracks have been up and down this area since I've been back. And I wouldn't be surprised if Thandi and Mariep's, that's why we're starting to see them more towards Chitwa Airstrip than this side. I think she's obviously aware that there's a potential threat, and she then moves the cub and herself to an area that's a lot more likely to be safe than where she is, or where she was in the Muluwanini riverbed itself. And you can see they're a little bit on the warm side. It's cooled right down. We've got a bit of cloud cover that's come in. The sun's just gone behind that. So it's a fairly actually cool afternoon. We don't actually have too much heat now, so that panting will probably just be residual from when it was warmer a little bit earlier on. Beautiful, beautiful lioness though, this one. She's got those kind of butterscotch eyes and quite a dark coat actually. The other lionesses that are in this pride, they're the more kind of normal tawny color, but she's got a very rich, almost ginger color to her. Very, very pretty. All right, well, we'll stick with these 3 for now. If they move northwards into Torchwood, unfortunately, that's not an area we can off-road yet. It's still too wet there. In the meantime, let's send you to Cuteness Overload in Ngala with the little lion cubs.
Just have a look at that and say, you're trying to play King of the Hill there. What's the most amazing for me about this whole scenario here is the patience of a top predator such as this female. And what I think our viewers might enjoy is if we sit and we listen to the noises these little ones are making. That's basically them complaining that they can't get to the nipples to have a drink. It's also a bit of frustration with each other. Frustration there. That little male just wants to get to drink some more. So now he's going to go bite his mother's tail. It's so funny how quickly they lose interest. I wonder if they're trying to... That was her telling them no. The weaning process with lions is an interesting one. It starts quite early on already. And it's only completed over quite a number of months. That's amazing. I don't know where they're going now. I don't know why they would move now, unless maybe they've decided to go have another drink. But then, one thing that I can't help thinking about is the lioness have been looking at, there's quite a few other animals around, and that carcass by now is the meat's quite putrid, and it's been laying in the sun for quite a while. And this area is quite an open area, and you'll notice as we head towards their direction now that there's a wildebeest and some impala on the clearing. And this lioness have been looking that direction as well. Well, there was a wildebeest and an impala in that direction, and I think what we might be witnessing here is these animals deciding to move off from this carcass. Now, the rest of this lion pride has not come to this area, and I'm actually a little bit surprised that even the sister of this lioness haven't. And think it might be about time for her to go look for some of the members of the rest of the pride. So I think we're gonna see what she does. I'm sure it'll be stop and rest like this. And we're gonna head over to Steve for some more exciting birding.
Well, thank you so much, Yapi. We found our famous and well viewed Wahlbergs. But what's very interesting, we've got a pair here, and the second one on the left has been with its wings outstretched like that for a long period of time. And I was just checking up and finding out, because these guys arrive in sort of August time, maybe late July, and the majority of the eggs are actually laid sort of between September and October, a majority, but they have been known to lay them in as late as January. And with a month and a half incubation period, there's a very good possibility that there's actually either an egg on that nest or there's even a chick that this female is protecting from the sun, because there doesn't seem to be any other reason for her to be sitting like that on the nest. So a month and a half incubation is a long period of time, and it's why the Wahlberg's eagle's nest is normally just a little bit below the canopy of a tree where there's a bit of shade. Most of our raptors or birds of prey will nest right on the top of the tree in the winter months, so the sun's not so harsh. But in summer here, the sun is incredibly harsh, and so Wahlberg's eagles generally build their nest a couple meters below the canopy top so as to shade. But she's constantly making a noise there. See if you can hear it. Stops now. There we go. So 70 to 75 days fledgling. Now fledging. It's another 2.5 months after hatching. So be very susceptible up on a nest like that in these hot conditions. And it's the first time. The other day, do you remember when we saw the two the other day? They were both brown, weren't they? They were both brown. Yeah. Didn't see a pale morph with this pair the other day, so it's very likely that they might have something going on in the nest. We'll keep watching. We know where it is. We've seen the pair around, but now we've found the nest, and it's in a tall knobthorn acacia tree. It's the preferred breeding site for many of our large birds of prey, including vultures. It's probably one of the most inaccessible trees. If you had to try and climb, you would choose that one last. Very interesting. There should be no other reason for it sitting like that with its wings, everybody. It doesn't actually look like that individual on the left is the one making the noise, which means that there might be a chick underneath making lots of noise. Magic Dragon Wizard, you're going to make me count now, aren't you? Okay, well, I'm going to have to... There's many. Let's start from the biggest. We got the Marshall Eagle. We've got the Fish Eagle, African Hawk Eagle, Battalier Eagle. Now, I'm going to get confused and forget many here, so I think I'm going to have to get my wonderful Raptor book out, Magic Dragon Wizard, because there are many large raptors. Don't forget, we've got the eagles, we got the buzzards, we got the hawk eagles, we got the goshawks, and then raptors also include the vultures. So I think what will be easy is if I go straight to the contents page of this book, and that might very quickly take me to, no, I think it's going to have to be the back. The back will be the quickest. Okay, are you ready? Are you ready, everybody, to count? African barred owlet, African cuckoo hawk, African fish eagle, African goshawk, African harryhawk, African hawk eagle, African hobby possible, African scops owl, African wood owl, a moorfalcon is a migrant. That's already 10, and I'm only on the first section. There are many, Magic Dragon Wizard. I could show you this index here. Here we go. I think this is the best bet. This is raptors of southern Africa, and a majority of them occur here. So there is the list, and so all the way from A all the way down to Y. There's a lot of birds, and that's just a quick index. So let's not go through and count them all. We obviously don't get the Dickinson's kestrel, the Egyptian vulture. Eleonora's falcon could move through. Eurasian hobby, it's possible but unlikely. Forest buzzard, no. Jackal buzzard, no, but towards the mountain. Lesser kestrel, probably not. Faroe's eagle towards the mountain. Western band of snake eagle, no. Southern band of snake eagle, no. So we can probably take about 15 or 20 out of here. But then there is plenty more to go. Okay, a very, very nice book to get your grips on birds of prey and raptors. And we won't get the Ruppel's vulture here at all. Secretary bird, unlikely, although it could occur within the greater Kruger. The Pell's fishing owl as well. Palmlet vulture, no. Pallet harrier, unlikely. There's a few that don't occur, thank you very much. But there are plenty of birds of prey. And one thing about birds of prey, Magic Dragon Wizard and everyone else who's watching, is that the presence of them in your skies is a very good indication of healthy ecosystem. The lack of your apex predators, because all your birds of prey are apex predators for the most part. Obviously some are bigger than others. But all of these large birds of prey and the diversity of them are a very good indication of the food that they're feeding on. Obviously a diversity of large prey animals is obviously important for a diversity of large birds of prey. So the big fellows that you see in the sky, which are often easier to find than the little fellows, are a good indication that things are working quite well. But we're going to watch this pair for a moment longer, see if maybe we can get a glimpse of something in the nest. But we'll be watching this pair very closely over the coming weeks.
When on safari, there's nothing better than an evening spent under the stars chatting around a fire, with the sounds of the wild all around you. If you sign up to be a WildEarth explorer, you can build your own memories by joining our guides for regular fireside chats. Subscription payments can be made by PayPal, credit card, and now bank transfer. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Riverbeds are a great way to find water and look for places where elephant have excavated hollows. You can then dig into the sand, and after a couple of feet you should find damp sand, which then can be squeezed out or siphoned off for water. And with water being one of our scarcest resources, it is a good idea to conserve water where and how you can.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Look at this, the little one is up and about. Certainly hasn't had enough milk at this age. No amount of milk is enough. Oh, Corky. Too sweet. Oh, look at this. is stunning.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Africa is very special, and when you come down here, even when you're watching through our camera, the landscapes have changed from desert to bushveld to up in the Masai Mara where there's grassland. That means that the biodiversity changes as we move along Africa. And what I love most about connecting with you guys is the fact that I get to share these wonderful experiences with thousands of people.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Right, so we're still with the Torchwoods, and they are slowly but surely walking towards us at this stage. They're not, unfortunately, as relaxed when doing walk-bys as what you'll see from some of the other lions in the area, so the Nkumas and Telematis. They tend to walk past a lot more than what these guys do, with a lot more relaxed kind ofness. These guys stop and often just look and stare at you. You're going to lie down there, are you? Oh, wonderful. Is the other one still going, David? Yep. Okay, well, that's good. If the other one's still going, then this one will go eventually. Going to get a little yawn. Show us those teeth. Oh, that's cool. Very, very cool. I'm surprised that these guys are moving, considering the heat. The sun has come back out again, and it's hot and humid, and just feels as though, they should be still sleeping. Maybe they're hungry. All of them are looking as though they could do with a bit of a meal. They're quite skinny, particularly that lead female. She looks as though she's the hungriest of the three, so I wouldn't be surprised that they're going to try and see if they can target something. Now, of course, if they stay on this road and they walk all the way down, they'll eventually get to the Mulawati and then pick up the scent, potentially, of where that kill is. So I don't really want them to go that far. Hopefully they'll kind of turn up on Cheetah Cut Line or head towards JC Brink Pan, which is a pan just behind us, where they can go and have a little bit of a drink. That'll be a cool spot to see them drinking. This lioness will go now. These yawns are always indicative of lions that are about to get up and move once again, especially because the other two are on their way. They're still moving, so she'll go now as well. You can see the feet that will carry her as she starts to move around. Amazing the size difference of these guys' paws compared to that of the leopards. It's you sometimes forget just the size comparison of these guys. Lioness versus a leopardess is two very, very different things. These guys are huge. Look at how beautiful that light is just catching their eyes. Like I say, these guys have very, very pretty eyes. They're the pride that I think probably has the most amount of females that have these kind of butterscotch amber colored eyes. All right, so let's go around and we'll see if we can just catch up with them again. I'm going to try and go all the way and head towards where I think they're going to go. So in other words, towards where there's water, and see if they arrive there. Millie, how sharp, is a lion's claw? Very sharp is the answer to sharper than you can imagine. I mean, if that animal decides to unleash its claws on you, it's going to be a very painful experience. I'm not going to go on the road itself. I'm just going to go round on the fire break. It's much easier for me to drive here than trying to off-road and bounce through long grass where I can't actually even see what's in the long grass. It's a recipe to break a diff or to damage a steering rod. So we're just going to use the fire brake itself in order to get to where we need to go. Which should make life very easy in comparison. I'm pretty sure they're going to drink at this pan. I'd be very surprised if they don't. And then from there, I'm expecting them to cut northwards. I might be wrong. They might go south, but let's see if they do. All right, so I'm going to just get round. We're going to be patient. It's going to take them a little bit of time to get towards the pan. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Steve, who's got a bird of prey.
Thanks, Justin. Good luck with the Torchwood Pride. I can't remember the last time I saw them. Oh, I saw the two females with the little cub. I wonder how they're doing. Hey everyone, you're watching closely, and this is the female on the left. She's a bit bigger. Hasn't stopped making the noise. You can hear that cloo, 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 cloo. So the scientific name, Hieratus wahlbergii. It's very interesting. Hieratus is from the Greek word hyrax, hawk, and atos, eagle. And Johann August Wahlberg, the Swedish naturalist and explorer who travelled widely in South Africa. In the 1800s, Wahl is pronounced Wahlberg. Okay, I've always called them a Wahlberg. I've just realised we've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time, everybody. Wahl, like the Waal River, and not Wall. There we go, we learn something new every day. So they hunt very efficiently on the wing. We actually had one. Hannah and myself went to town this morning, and a bird just emerged out of nowhere and hit something off of the road, and it took off again. Very, very quick at flying down and catching prey. Variety of mammals, small birds, even up until the size of a guinea fowl. Also take reptiles and even insects. Can be known to raid nests. Okay, what's she doing now? It's almost like she's doing CPR. If anyone has seen this behavior before, please let me know. I mean, I'm only sort of guessing and telling you what I think it is. I don't actually know, but working it all out, it seems to make the most sense. So in contrast to all of the other eagles that you find, which have very white chicks due to the fact that they're born in nests right on top of the tree, Wahlberg's chicks are actually chocolate, sort of brown colour, pale brown of chocolate, which is essentially what determines their eventual adult coloration. So these are two dark morphs. Oh, looks like she's doing something again now. Now looks like she's feeding. Looks like she's feeding on something, everybody. This is interesting in the fact that it's possible. Ah, interesting. Karen has said that there was an Eurasian hobby seen on the dam cam last year. I saw one in the Northern Kruger in Makuleki, which is a very rare spot. Eurasian hobby. Interesting. Hobbies are very cool to see. But you can see that it definitely looks like it's feeding on something there. Maybe, I don't want to say it, but maybe it had a chick and it's been trying to revitalize it. And the chick has not survived. It's not uncommon for certain animals to then consume their youngsters. I know that sounds horrible to all of you out there. Definitely feeding right now. Typical raptor-like position. The holding and pulling. Okay, well, those of you who've never seen a Eurasian hobby before, let me draw your attention. It's a very cool bird. It's not one you'll forget if you see it. I saw one up in the Fevertree Forest in 2014. Beautiful bird. Some hyenas calling. Beautiful. Very uncommon, non-breeding. Afrikaans, Johan, Europese boomvalk.
Okay, thank you.
Johan's loving catching up on all the Afrikaans names. So Eurasian, obviously, because they come from Europe where they clearly breed. But a fantastic bird. Obviously part of the falcon family. You can see that by the mask around the face. So falco, Latin for falcon. And as with most of our migrating sort of raptor birds, feeds almost primarily on insects. They will also catch bats, flying birds. Beautiful. Okay, thank you, Johan. Going to go back to our Wahlbergs there, and then I think we're starting to lose a little bit of light. Falco sabutio, Eurasian hobby. Hobby coming from the old French word hoba, to move. Jackie, our birds could chase other birds away after they kill. Larger raptors can definitely take food from other large raptors. That's why the Wahlbergs come now and breed. They are the smallest eagle that we get. And many of the smaller raptors like the Eurasian hobby, the steppe eagles or common buzzards that arrive, they're a little bit smaller than some of the bigger birds, and so they can come here when there's plenty of food and less competition. The bigger and stronger birds of prey, they stick around, they don't go anywhere. So if the Wahlbergs or the Eurasian hobby stuck around during our winter months, they'd find themselves coming face to face with a very competitive tawny eagle or martial eagle. Okay, so she's changed her wing structure. The sun has finally set. So the only thing I can explain this to be, everybody, is that either there was a chick and she's been trying to protect it, and it probably got very dehydrated. It has been a few very warm days, so it's why you have birds of prey like this Wahlbergs nesting deeper in the canopy to protect them against the sun. Not necessarily right on the top like that. It's the first time I've seen a Wahlbergs right on top. Wahlberg, thank you. Han will correct me on that one now that we've got the name. Everybody, you got that? The Wahlbergs eagle. V-A-A-L. It was Mr. Wahl, the Swedish explorer, of course. Not Mark Wahlberg, the actor. Well, his name's also probably Mark Wahlberg. I wonder if he knows that. Probably not. But these fellows will be leaving soon. They can stay as late as April, but they won't be here for too much longer. And they'll overwinter generally north of the equator. Being an inter-African migrant, they don't go north of the Saharan Desert. The Saharan Desert's kind of like that cut-off point for many birds, especially the ones that breed. It's just too far to get over that area. Those birds that do go past the Sahara into Europe, into Asia, they're generally birds that don't breed in South Africa. They just come here for the food and they go back again and then breed that side. Alternatively, It's the cuckoos who come down, and well, they're not necessarily breeding on their own. They are laying eggs and allowing others to do the work for them. Well, of course, it is a wonderful afternoon. Let's send you over to Tristan with some more magic.
Well, we had to make space at the lines for other vehicles, which led us to come back to the kill, and we've got Kalamba beautifully out in the open. Oh, I wonder if she's going to cross this river for us. Let me just move. I'm going to just reposition us slightly, that in case she goes across the river, we'll get a beautiful, beautiful view of her kind of walking across. I just need to go over here and down. I don't see any sign of Sabui or any other leopard stage. Not to say that there isn't another leopard.
Sorry about that, everybody. We haven't gone anywhere. You nearly came to myself and Johan howling at the moon. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful moon. Thought about maybe going back to the Wahlbergs, but let's while we figure out what's going on the other end, let's frame up this moon and just sit very quietly. There's that time of day for some silent reflection. And being very artistic with his moon and his little bit of cloud. I'm going to allow you all just to sit back and take a deep breath on this Wednesday afternoon and just enjoy the waxing of the moon.
Right, so Sibui has just arrived as well. So both of them are here, Kalamba in the tree and Sibui walking along the bank towards the tree. They've seen each other and there's lots of salivating going on. So I'm intrigued to see now what takes place. You'll see that she's, that's Sibui there, that's kind of walking along the bank. See how her mouth is open, salivating. She's looking. Kalamba will be just up in the tree ahead. So I don't really know what's going to happen now as to whether they're going to come to blows. But both these females will be very, very unhappy. We know that they both consider this part of their territory. Kalamba's going to come down the tree, I think, to come and face this head on. There's Sibui's now scent marking. I wonder what Kalamba's going to do, if she's going to run or she's going to come this way. No, she's coming this way. This is her first test in terms of her, or major test. I mean, we know that she's come across Tswalu recently, but this is going to be one of her big tests on the southern boundary. Sibui's also a big cat. She's a bulky little girl as well, so it's going to be very, very interesting. Now you see the behavior from both leopards, both rolling. So this is all trying to just show that this is their territory. They're trying to mark territory by using their facial glands. They're scent marking with their back feet and urinating as well. As there will be little vocalizing every now and then. There'll be salivation coming out. And both these cats will be trying to prove a point. Now they've both been here all day, obviously. And this is all just about who has more kind of size and more aggression towards the other one as to how this is going to play out. Kalamba, can you hear Sibui growling? What you often find is during the day these kind of disputes settle right down. Both cats get hot and they find a place to sit and rest. But as soon as it cools down like this is when they start to get a lot more active and a lot more kind of capable of doing damage to one another. And when you're in these situations, it's never something that you really want. You don't want to see either cat fighting, but ultimately this is part and parcel of a wild leopard's life. They have to, at some point, defend territories, and if Kalamba is going to raise cubs and become a mother, she needs to lay out very defined territories for herself for the protection of those cubs. And just try to keep quiet to see if you can hear the growling over the sound of the running water. I believe you guys can only hear the running water. It's a very low growl coming from both of them, and one growls and stops and then the other one starts. So funny because, you know, the day when we found this drag mark, we were saying that it could very well be Kalamba or Sibui. That was my initial guesses that I had. And it's crazy to think that both cats are now here. It doesn't surprise me at all, given how these two are both individuals that are kind of, well, I suppose Kalamba is trying to establish herself as a dominant female where she's going to raise cubs, whereas Sibui, she's got to start making space for cubs. We know that her two cubs currently are of the age where she's going to leave them, and so she's got to at some point make space for them. Now I just want to quickly guide this vehicle that's coming from the other side. Yeah, Mike, you need to turn towards me, towards the Tamburtis. Kalamba's at the base of the Tamburtis and Sibui's just south of that on the bank. So basically, like I was saying, so she's been starting to mate again, so she now needs to create space for her daughter to be able to occupy an area, which means that maybe that's going to push her north. We don't know yet. And obviously Kalamba, at the same time, this Mulawati riverbed system is a system she was used to as a cub. It was where she was kept a lot of the time. It was a place where mom looked after her, and so I'm pretty sure her idea is to den in these areas. And looking at her today, she obviously has a very full belly from eating, but that belly looks as though there might be little ones in there. It's looking ominously big all the way through from the kind of chest area all the way to the tail. Now normally when they eat, it's the front section that starts to hang, and it kind of curls back up towards the tail area, whereas hers is sort of quite low between the legs around where her mammary glands are. It looks like that's all quite swollen out. So if she does have cubs, then she's got even more to risk, and why she needs to be very careful about interacting with another leopard. Isn't this insane though? We get so spoiled in this reserve. I mean, to have one leopard is always special. To have two leopards is just insane. And watching and being allowed to have this ability to see into the lives of cats that are successful in the areas that they thrive in. And I mean, we're talking about an area here where you've got a very high density of leopard. To see the behavior here as to how they negotiate territories, how they kind of survive, is an absolute gift. We are super, super fortunate to be able to see these guys and to witness something like this. You know, in many parts of the world, if you had to speak to somebody that hypothetically views leopards in maybe in some remote part of Africa or Asia, I mean, they would wish to be able to see this with their own eyes. A lot of this kind of footage would have been with camera traps rather than actually with their own eyes. Now, sorry, Elton, I missed the name. I got the question as to why is Kalahari having so many run-ins with other leopards at the moment, but I just didn't get the name. Oh, Wise One. Wise One, the reason probably is due to the fact that we have an oversupply of leopard at the moment. It's quite simple. I've been saying it for months, is that there's going to be a blowout between our cats here. The whole Hukamuri situation is because of a high density of leopards. These guys too. There's the female numbers in this area are so high at the moment that as she's kind of moving around within an area that she's trying to define as her territory, she's got competition. So to the north she has Luna, to the east she has Tandi, to the south Sabui, and to the west Shadulu. She's surrounded, and now she even has Kara that's coming into an area where she's walked around before. So you've got a surrounding of the area by other females, and this is what happens, is all these females are trying to expand their territories as big as possible to maximize the resources in that area. So they want to have good den sites, they want to have water, and they want to have prey availability. And so as those territories expand, they start to come into contact with others. Now, because she might be pregnant and thinking, well, I need to start marking territory, she's moving around in much bigger areas than maybe she was used to. And what that means is she's now starting to bump into other cats. It's just, unfortunately, the nature of the beast is that as we start to get more and more of these adult leopards within the area and the territory sizes start to shrink, so there's going to be more competition for vital areas, and so we're going to see these guys coming to blows. And I wouldn't be surprised if the density of these leopards is so high that any of the younger females, so the Inzutinis, Karas, Langas, they're going to unfortunately be pushed out and going to have to become nomadic for a bit because of just the number of territorial female leopards. For those of you that don't know the numbers of territorial female leopards in this area at the moment, we have Monzo, Nkanyeni, Luna, Kara, Kalamba, Sabui, Kuchava, Tandi, Tiani, Moya, and Shinzele. So that's 12, and I forgot Nkanyeni, I think, in that as well. So we're looking at 12 to 14 female leopards in this section without counting any of the young females. So that's, makes it very, very difficult for these guys not to come to blows at some point. And those young females, unfortunately, are going to have to give way at some point too, unless territory sizes just shrink even further than what they already are for all of these cats to make space for one another. Absolutely phenomenal, though. We've timed this so right to be able to kind of get you just as everything is happening. Kalamba was the first one to emerge from a thicket, and then as soon as she moved, Sabui started to make her way as well. I wonder if Kalamba's going to go back up the tree. Look at her, she's marking. I will say this though, these are both prime specimens in the female world. They are beautiful cats, both of them, and both of them are in the best condition you can imagine. I mean, Kalamba is stocky and well set, and obviously she's been feeding well, so she's looking really good. And Sabui herself is not a small cat, as I was saying. So, you know, it's crazy to see kind of two prime leopards in the same place. Often when you get these interactions, it can sometimes be like older leopards with very young leopards, and the young leopards give way, or prime leopards against very old leopards, and again there's a dominance that takes place. But in this situation, both of these cats are fairly evenly matched, and it's why I'm so intrigued to see what's going on. But what we can see so far is that Kalamba's not backing down, unlike the other night with Shidulu, where she ran and Shidulu chased her. In this instance, she hasn't moved from this area the whole day. She's basically saying, this is my kill and I'm not giving it up for you at all, which is a good thing. We need to see Kalamba doing that if she's going to stay around Djuma, and she needs to make it very clear to these other females that she's not going to be pushed around by them. The only problem with that is it might lead her to actually have physical kind of contact with one of these cats. She looks up the tree as though she wants to go back up again. As soon as she goes, though, Sabui will go closer. And the problem that you have when a leopard's up a tree is you don't want to be caught up a tree. In this case, when she's on the ground like this, she's able to watch what's happening and she's able to deal with it. So if she feels like she needs to run, she can run. If she wants to fight, she can fight. If she wants to hide, she can hide. But in a tree, she gets cornered. She can't go anywhere. And fighting in a tree is also not as easy as being on the ground. When you're on the ground, you're a lot more sure-footed than you are in a tree. And there's a lot more space to maneuver. So I don't think we'll see her going up, but if she does go up, it's going to make for a bit of a disaster in many respects. Who's 10 years old, I hope so too. I mean, we never want to see any of our animals get hurt out here. Obviously, this poor impala was hurt by Kalamba, and that's what's caused these two to come together. And ideally, you know, you don't want to see territorial disputes end in any sort of injury or death. But the reality is that it is a possibility, and it's why leopards typically don't want to fight with one another, and it's why you're seeing what we're seeing now. Both cats are growling, so they're giving a sound to say that they're not happy, that they don't want the other one to come close. They're rolling in order to put their scent everywhere, to try and show the other one that this is my territory, I'm marking, don't come near me. So they're trying to do everything that they can so as that they don't get themselves into a situation where they're going to actually have to touch each other. Because unfortunately, leopards have all the tools to kill animals because they're predators, and then that's what they have to eat meat. They have sharp claws, sharp teeth, and that means they've got to go after, and when they go after each other, those tools that they use normally to kill animals to eat can be very dangerous to one another. And so leopards know that they don't want to fight with one another if they can help it, because the reality is that they could get very badly injured, and that's obviously something they want to avoid. So what they rather try and do is try and use everything that they can to try and intimidate the other one. And what intimidate means is to try and scare the other one away, to say to the other one, I don't want you close here. Sabui is moving now. She's going to lie back down. She just stood up. While Kalamba was facing away, you see how clever these cats are. They know as soon as the other one faces away, it opens an opportunity to get a little bit closer without being seen. I'm so impressed with Kalamba, though. It's kind of, for me, it's a big deal when she stands her ground like this. The other day, she unfortunately was chased by Shidulu, and I thought, well, maybe she's just, not ready to really stand her ground yet. But this sighting is all about her just saying, I'm not moving, this is my kill, you can move out of the way. I'm not giving it up for you, which is so good and so encouraging for us to see the princess for many years to come if she's going to behave like this.
February is the month of love, and nature is no exception. Tristan and Trishala will be igniting the flame to discuss the bonds formed in the African wild. Sign up to become an explorer and join them by the fire on Sunday, the 28th of February. WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner, and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
The croc is still holding another one there. It's holding from the hindquarters. I would really want the wildebeest cross. Is it trying? The croc is holding the tail. It's holding tight. Oh no. Goodness me. Lucky, lucky wildebeest. You have another day to live.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
We've just watched the sun disappear behind that massive bank of clouds rolling in. But it's still a very beautiful evening here in Ngala. And we've been spending a little bit of time with these impalas as well. Today was very hot. Still a little bit of humidity in the air. We've gradually watched this group get smaller and smaller. Every now and again one of them is breaking off and moving away as it's getting darker into the thickets nearby. Now, I see only a few females here. In fact, I only see two at this point. Then I see, I was just about to say, then I see some males of varying ages. And I saw two chasing each other. The one looks like he's maybe about 3 years old. 3 to 4, and the others about 2, or closer to 2. And if you look on the right, you'll see there's quite a large male coming in. And I've been noticing that. You can see he's lowered his head briefly there. That's to tell the other one just to keep his distance. He's definitely one of the more mature males in this group. Now, the male impalas have been congregating in these clearings, and although I've noticed females here and there with them, I think that's more because it's just a good food resource. But between these males here, the younger ones, those of just over 2 to 3, they've probably only recently started joining this group or groups of males like this. And they still have to work their way up the ranks, but for now, it's like a learning school. You can see the more closely matched younger impalas off on the left. will be on the side, spending time together with themselves and trying to keep their distance from the larger, older males. Now eventually, in a few weeks' time, we'll start to see the beginning of the rut season. Oh, there's an impala that had a really high jump there at the back. Maybe something in the grass spooked it. I can see a dead branch sticking out of the grass from where I am, and maybe it's that. So, this impala, they look like they're moving off, and before we head over to Phinda, the next time you come back, we'll introduce you to somebody new, Fred, and Fred will be joining us at andBeyond in Ngala from tomorrow morning and for the last bit of this drive. We're going to head over to Phinda with their rhinos.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, and we've actually had such a beautiful sunset here. With the light having just gone down now, we found these two white rhino, and it looks like they are just slowly eating. I spoke about some of the skinny grass that's very abundant here in Phinda or just after the rainy season, so they'll also be trying to graze on the plentiful grass at the moment. The sky is such a beautiful pinkish red color. It's quite nice to have some clouds in the sky sometimes, because you get a whole lot of different colors that you sometimes wouldn't experience on a very clear day. And it's also quite nice because it's been very cool. Which is nice. It does get very hot in Zululand sometimes. But as it's getting later on into the year, I've realized it's not as hot as it was perhaps about a month ago. And these rhino are obviously very sensitive to fluctuations in temperature as well. They have very, very thick skin. And on these ones, it's quite dark now, but they have a lot of mud caked on their body. It doesn't look like they've lain in the mud at all today, which is something they do very often actually. So it's quite different to see them in their bodies. Possibly I mentioned it, so it's they mud wallow basically to help themselves get rid of parasites, as well as to cool them down. I mentioned their skin's very thick and they don't sweat, so you can imagine how hot it gets. So on a cool day like this, maybe they didn't really need to. Wow, and the sky is just turning a more red color now. That is so, so, so gorgeous. So we are going to keep moving, see if we can find anything else before it gets too dark here at Phinda, but we're going to send you over to Djuma, who have a leopard.
Well, I'm still sitting here, and there's still kind of the status quo, unfortunately. Well, Sabi's actually up and moving now. Kalahari was chased up the tree by hyenas, so she unfortunately had 4 hyenas run at her, and she just had to go up. I think they were obviously attracted to the sound of the growling, and they kind of came in to check, and so now Sabi is slowly but surely edging closer. Don't know if you can hear her, she's grumbling all the time. There comes a hyena now again. I wonder if one of these hyenas is going to come chase Sabi as well. Just seems like there is a lot in the way of, I don't know what the word is, of different scenarios that could play out here. I don't really know how this is going to end. I suspect Kalamba is trying to wolf down her food as much as she can. There can't be too much left of the carcass now. She's been here for 3 days, so she should have gone through most of it. So I doubt that we're going to see too much left after she's had a good feed this evening. So maybe she just wants to try to get through it as quick as possible and then kind of deal with Sabui after that. I can't even see Kalamba. Where she is in the tree is just the whole tree is moving every now and then a little low grumble comes emanating from the tree. What's interesting also is how these cats know as soon as the hyenas come, they stop growling immediately, and then the hyenas kind of lose interest and move away, and they start growling again. Hyenas come in, and it's just kind of this back and forth pinball game that's being played between all of them at this stage. And I was saying now, imagine to David how amazing it would be if with all this growling it attracts the attention of Mulawati and he also arrives here. It'd be fascinating to see how that kind of addition of a male leopard, how it would change the sort of dynamic here. I think both females would scatter, and he would obviously just run up the tree and take the kill for himself. He's not going to let Kalamba have that. It would be interesting to see his kind of effect on the whole situation. And it's not beyond the realm of possibility with the smell that this kill has attracted. There are a number of hyenas that are moving around, the vocalizing of these two leopards as they growl. It's very possible that any other leopard that's nearby would show up here to come and check out what's going on. Here comes Sabui again. She's also a beautiful cat. Like I was saying, she too has kind of embarked on the journey now to try and start having a new set of cubs. She was apparently seen mating with Mulawati this week. So she's kind of starting her next phase as well, and that would be her third litter that she'll be having. She's raised 2 successful litters, should I say, and then this will be the kind of next one after that. Karen, this can go on all night. It's been going on all day, but Sabui's all of a sudden somehow gotten a bit of confidence to move in a little bit closer. But it can go all night. I've seen fights like this go for hours and hours and hours, and sometimes it goes 6 hours, sometimes it lasts 5 minutes. The other night with Shadulu and Kalamba, both of them Shadulu ran into her, Kalamba ran, they both started sawing, and that was the end of that. Now look where Sabui is, she's sniffing exactly where Kalamba was rolling around, scent marking, and she'll phlegm and grimace that, and it will tell her this is not a leopard that she knows very well. This is a competition leopard, not an offspring or, a cat that she recognizes, and that will then dictate what the next kind of phase of what she does is. Let's see if she goes up the tree. She's kind of looking up in the tree. You'll see that every now and then there'll be maybe a spotlight that comes out. There's other vehicles that are in the sighting. So I do apologize if you do see a spotlight. The guys are generally very sensitive when it comes to that. They'll try and kind of just shine more on the ground than into the eyes of these guys, especially in a situation like this. Here comes hyena now. Let's see what Sabui does. Isn't this just crazy? It's a little bit on the dark side, I'm afraid. Unfortunately, we've lost light very quickly, but look how close they are. I'm going to keep quiet because they're making noise, both of them. There goes Sabui. She's just popped out on the other side of the bush there. See, as soon as the hyenas come towards her, she has to give way. What's interesting is that she didn't choose to go up the tree with Kalamba. She rather instead kind of moved away. There's a marula tree that's not far here that she went towards instead. So I think if they'd chased her further, she would have gone up the marula tree, which was fine. She's much faster than the hyenas, so she can easily get out of their way pretty quickly. I'm hoping though that she'll kind of head back towards where we are, and sort of back on our hyenas rolling where Kalamba has been rolling. Everybody just wants to mark this as their area. No, they won't. If a hyena attacks one of them, the other one's not going to get involved at all. The only way you see leopards interacting with hyenas like that and going after another one is if it's a cub of theirs. Then they'll start to try and defend the cubs from hyenas to a degree. It depends on how many hyenas we're talking about. You saw with Sabi there, it was very, very fascinating, is that one hyena, no problem. She was happy to stand her ground. As soon as the second one started to appear, she bolted and got out of there. She knows that one is one thing, but two is something she needs to be very, very, very wary of. Right, we need to go into infrared, so it will change now. There we go. Otherwise, it's getting a little bit on the dark side for poor David. You see Sabi's back there, which is good. At least we can kind of see and keep tabs on her for now. Wait and see what Kalamba does. I think Kalamba's just going to stay up there and eat at this stage. I don't think we're going to see her coming down anytime soon until she's had a really good feed off of that kill. They surely won't be here tomorrow. There can't be enough meat to last again till the morning. Maybe. It'd be very, very interesting if we come here tomorrow and both cats are still here. I'd be quite surprised if that is the case. What will happen though is that no matter how long that meat lasts, if the carcass stays, both cats stay. If the carcass drops or falls or gets finished, then you'll find that what you might see is that one of them follows the other one and tries to push them out of the territory and guide them away before splitting up. So it'll be still a long night for both of these cats. Neither one is going to, by seemingly the interaction that we've seen so far, neither one really wants to give way to the other. Sabi could have come here, seen this cat up the tree feeding, and then she could have decided, you know what, it's not worth it, and moved away, or Kalamba intimidated by Sabi and moved away. But the fact that they're both still here indicates that this will go on for as long as it takes for one of them to either A, lose interest, B, feel threatened, or C, be pushed into a place where they don't want to be pushed any further, that they kind of break off and go in their own separate ways, or D, where they form a boundary line between the two of them and both are happy to separate. Much like what we saw with Tswalu and Kalamba the other day, is they basically just separated and both of them went their separate ways. They didn't pursue each other. Same with Kuchava and Thandi a few days ago as well. Now that I kind of recall all of these sightings, I'm feeling like we've been absolutely spoiled lately with interactions between female leopards. Like I say, we've had Kalamba Tswalu, Kalamba Sabi, and Kuchava Thandi, all in the space of 9 days. Pretty crazy when you think about it, and just hammers home the point that there's going to be a lot more competition between these cats before something gives. I also think that winter is going to play a big role, because as water starts to change, now there's water everywhere, so it's much easier for a lot of these cats to kind of go wherever they want. But as it gets dry and they have to start moving towards permanent water sources, that also is going to bring them all together even more so than they already are. So what you up to, girl? You going to come lie there? Okay. Like I say, you'll see a spotlight every now and then. It's unfortunately, human eye is not equipped with infrared, and so it's going to bounce around the frame. There's not much I can do about it. So we're just trying to give everybody a chance to be able to kind of see these cats. We're very fortunate in that we don't have to use spotlights, but a lot of people that come out here, it's a way that they can kind of see the animals. Is she going to jump across? Let's see. No, she's going to walk across. Look at this. Isn't that cool? Leopard in the water. I wonder if she's going to come and smell here. This is exactly where kind of Kalamba was crossing. Right next to me is a bush where Kalamba was scent marking when we first arrived, and I suspect Sabi is going to come and mark right next to me here. It'll be very cool if she does. Hello, girl. You can see, look, she's just next to the car now, marking at this tree. Isn't this amazing? She's got such a beautiful coat. I like Sabi's coat. She's got a lot more spots packed into her coat than most leopards. Her spots are small and fine and kind of very dotty on her coat. She almost has like little spots like a cheetah as opposed to rosettes. I mean, obviously she does have rosettes, but her spotted pattern is that much more dense than, let's say, Kalamba. But the coat colors are interesting. Her coat color and Kalamba's are very different, and you can see the difference when they're kind of both standing here. I don't know if she's gone behind us, if she's still moving, or if she's just stayed still. Looks like she's kind of just going back up towards Twin Dams. Maybe she's had enough of this and she's going to move on and leave Kalamba up in the tree itself. She likes to go up there. Often when I see Sabi in this area, she's on top of this little old broken dam wall that goes up towards Twin Dams area. So maybe she's just going to go sit up there and watch from up there. It's a nice vantage point. It's away from where the hyenas are moving a lot of the time. And so she can not have to worry too much about being chased up there, but still keep an eye out on what's going on. Or she's just going to drop over the top and gone. All right, well, that's it, I'm afraid. We have no view of either cat or hyenas, and we're not allowed to move. So now you have to look at me instead. Epic though, isn't it? Isn't that cool? Having a leopard walk that close is always something as a guide and as a person, I think. Doesn't matter whether you've been on safari once, 200 times or 1,000 times. It never, ever, ever, ever gets old to have that situation that we just had right now, where a cat is at that proximity. We're so spoiled when we get views of these cats the way that we do sometimes. Kind of have these pinch yourself moments every now and then. But there we go, that's the riverbed. That's just flowing water. Like I say, we can't move at all, so I can't follow Sabi. I can't do anything with Kalamba. She's up in the tree, so we're going to just stare at the riverbed and see if anything actually pops out. Right, well, we'll sit here and carry on watching the riverbed. Hopefully one of them will pop out somewhere.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm from South Africa and I'm the incredibly lucky winner of the Tswalu competition. Tswalu has so much to offer, but we're really looking forward to the game viewing options, as going out with a personal guide who has so much knowledge will just be exceptional. Motsi Lodge looks absolutely amazing and we're so looking forward to spending time there. It really is out of this world. I only registered as an explorer towards the end of January, so when the email arrived stating that I was the winner, it took me totally by surprise. I'd just like to thank WildEarth and Tswalu for this most incredible prize. It really is a dream come true.
WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
The reason why we see that wildebeest by himself is because he's a male, or a bull, as we typically would call him. And what he does is that he marks and defends an area. Essentially, he is looking for the ultimate piece of land or prime property. Needs to have good grazing, needs to have a water source close by. And not too far away from here, there's a sickle bush thicket that would provide just enough shelter from the wind and the rain.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that is truly, truly magical.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Welcome back to Prrivate, everybody, where we had a spotted hyena a little while ago, and in this area this morning there are tracks of a leopard and probably 2 subadult cubs. And we tried a little bit this morning. We didn't put too much effort in because in the daytime these animals are pretty jumpy. So this afternoon we thought, let's just try the area. We found a little bit more activity, a bit more sign, but nothing really to go by. And then the hyena came along and we thought to ourselves, okay, well, we'll follow this fellow. Gave us the slip very quickly. Very quickly, as we discussed many times in the past. I wish I had the nose like a hyena, just sometimes, not all the time. I think it could be quite overwhelming to have such a nose. Alison, I would like to see an aardvark and a pangolin and a striped polecat. And well, maybe we should just start with the leopard. Let's start with the leopard, and we'll get there. Now, leopards, everybody that are around South Africa. Before I worked in the Sabi Sands, I actually worked for Eco Training, and I saw 3 leopards in 3 years. 3 leopards in 3 years. So you must just understand that the Sabi Sands is a very, very interesting place to find leopard. The leopards are quite easy, not that they're easy to find, but they are quite relaxed. And if they're findable, you will find them. Whereas here they move away, they're not as used to being tracked, as used to being found, and they just move away as a natural thing that leopards do. And so we're going to have to put a lot of work in to try and find these leopards, but that's perfectly normal, perfectly natural. And at night time their behavior does change slightly, so it's possible that at night we might have better luck. But we will try, we'll do our best. And over time, slowly but surely, with a little bit more work on the ground, and because this wasn't it hasn't been an ecotourism venue before. So now with people on the ground tracking and looking and searching, and habituation starts off like that. And once you get a female relaxed through a lot of effort, and then she's get some cubs, and then you get the cubs relaxed, well, the process all starts that way. But it is a process. My first sort of section of my career was actually habituating leopards in the Kruger, because they were competing with the likes of the Sabi Sands for leopards, and it's just difficult to try and compete with such an enterprise because leopards have been so relaxed there for a very long time that leopards are born into relaxed nature, and just as you've seen, as we see all the time, don't we? So we are very blessed that side. So this side we're just gonna have to work a bit harder, and if we do get a glimpse, like I did yesterday on foot, of a little, that is leopard sighting out here. The amount of times in the Kruger I've been on walk and I've had leopard on foot, probably 10 to 15, and me being at the front of the line, the amount of people behind me that saw that leopard there's probably about 10% of the people behind me actually saw the leopard that I saw. So yeah, by nature, their whole natural behavior is to disappear. So let's start with the leopard, shall we? We've seen some bush babies, so I can tick that off. We haven't managed to show them to you on camera yet. Southern white-faced owls. We've had a couple over the last few days. We actually had one catch what I think was a skink or maybe a small snake in the road, but obviously ran away or flew away before we could frame. So slowly but surely we'll get there. We've had Lagatha after drive one afternoon. We've had a few hyenas. So next will be a leopard. They would take it from there. So aardvarks and pangolins, any day of the week I'd like to see them. Any day of the week. We come into Impala Plains, Impala clearing. There's often enormous amounts of animals. And tonight there's only a few of them on the far side there. Of of course, Karen, lights in general do have impact, so you have to be very sensitive. You know, we're looking for the eye shine of nocturnal animals that have the potential to change the dilation of their eye, and I've no doubt there's an impact that lights have on animals, but you know, we try to be very sensitive with it. We use the infrared for filming, but spotlights is part of the game drive industry. You know, it's what many people use for game viewing, for predators at night. Obviously, we're not looking to shine on any of our diurnal animals, impalas and the like, but you can quickly shine over them, and it's not really going to affect them too much. But if you stand there and you beam them in the face, it's not very ethical. So it's all about ethics. We try to be ethical about it, and the eyes incredibly shine from a very long distance away. Very long distance away. There's often some wildebeest, impala, zebra in this clearing, and often hyenas. Also had a pair of black-backed jackal the last week, pretty much every day in this clearing, which has been pretty cool. And we actually managed to get it on camera this morning. Everybody is very relaxed on that side. Relaxed and feeding. Okay, well, we're going to continue on, see what we can find, and send you back over to Tristan over in Djuma. I'm sure he's having a wonderful evening.
Hopefully you find something, Steve. We've left Kalamba and Sabui. Unfortunately, we just can't follow in that area, and there's just no visual or way to get visual on Kalamba. Sabui, we saw her cross the river back to Kalamba's side on the northern side, where it's very dense and thick, and in the dark, off-roading there would just be unwise and probably land us in a lot of trouble. We'll have to just figure out what happens in the morning. We don't want to be breaking cars, especially with Rusty being down as it already is. So what we're doing now is we're just going to bumble home. We're going to try and kind of head up to the western side of Djuma and northwards. Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll bump into Mulawati. Maybe we'll bump into Shadulu. You never know. Just going to what comes our way. There in the morning just to see what happens. I'll be surprised if they both. I suspect a little bit disappointed, but we'll, like I say, try. You never know. Maybe we get lucky and maybe somehow those two cats will be able to kind of pop out. Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, the two of them don't really look like they want to come to blows. Both of them, I think, have realized they're pretty kind of large and powerful animals, and that they are in the primes of their lives, and so I don't think they really want to fight too much. And actually, there's not really much to fight about right there. There's a carcass, sure, but it's not like there's any cubs involved. There's the fringes of both their territories, so I suspect what we're going to see is them just going their separate ways. And now we're going to sit awkwardly in the dark, waiting to be told when we can move again, because unfortunately our signal seems to not be working very well. All right, well, we're going to carry on. We'll leave the moon where it is. In the meantime, though, it sounds like Ngala's got a nice surprise for all of you.
Well, good evening and welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, where we just wanted to show you a really beautiful full moon in the late night. You can hear some lovely sounds around us, some fire-necked nightjars and a couple of crickets And funny enough, a turtle dove, which is still giving his last call probably before he's going to go to bed. But really just lovely to be soaking up the last little bit of today's drive. All right, well, this is indeed a new voice and a new face. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Fred, and I'm looking forward to be spending the next few drives with all of you. But our plan for tonight is we're still doing a bit of a drive and looking for some nocturnal animals. And so we are going to be going out now and see what we can find. So the area where we just passed now was a bit of a clearing. And we're going to switch over now to infrared as well, which is going to help us with the night vision. But some of these clearings that we've been passing has had some wildebeest and some impala, which is probably where they've decided to spend the night. I think they do feel a little bit more safe when they're up there. But for now, we are looking for more nocturnal animals. Things like genets and porcupines, civets and white-tailed mongoose, pretty much anything really. I think that's the fun thing about a night drive, is there's all these possibilities, but you never know what you're going to find. So let's see. Hi Olivia, and thanks for your question. I started working with andBeyond in 2015. So this is my 6th year of guiding. But I actually started working at Phinda. And I've only been at Ngala for a year now. Okay. One of the things we also might be able to look out for is, especially at night time, we often find spotted eagle owls will come to the roads. And we often find them sitting on the roads, and they're looking for insects and little rodents. Even some snakes going around at night is what they'll try to find. So that'll be quite a special thing to get for us. Bali is asking, what is my favorite nocturnal animal? Well, I must say that would be the honey badger. Although you do get them active at daytime as well. But they really are probably my favorite animal. Just their whole demeanor and the way they move and the way they're pretty much not scared of anything, really. And we do get honey badgers here, but difficult to find. And normally when you do get them, it's pretty much a surprise. So in the mornings when we go out, the only signs we really get is tracks of them that show where they've been moving around, walking, looking for food, places where they've been digging under the ground. But I would say honey badger is my favorite one. I think if I heard that right, Nicanova is asking if a full moon is affecting animals' behavior. Well, for the most part, animals do react to light and changes within light. But I would say in a landscape like this, a full moon offers animals a lot more light, especially for predators. It's a lot easier for them to move around. So you might find that some animals are just more active when they have more light like this. You know, even as humans, we can't really see well at all in the dark. If it's a full moon, you can almost read out of a book. So you can imagine how for animals, that really, for them, it's almost like daytime. So that might affect their behavior in that way. Pretty good question, actually, because partly related to that could be, this time of year we are expecting the impalas to go into rutting season, and it's said that it's the shortening of daylight that actually triggers that behavior in them. And I remember a few days ago, Steve at Pridelands mentioned that the impalas there have started to rut. And I was sort of waiting to see where the different areas are going to start to see the same behavior. And you can see here they're starting to line themselves up for that behavior, but we haven't experienced full rutting behavior just yet. So it'll be interesting to see if that indeed is the case, where, it starts further north and maybe comes down here. But I'm sure it's going to be soon. We are prepping for that. While we continue with our drive, and I'm just actually smelling the sweet grass at the moment, caught my attention. We're going to send you over to Tristan, who's also doing a bit of a search tonight.
Well, we are, I suppose, on somewhat of a mission to find nocturnal creatures, and we found what look like pretty fresh tracks for, I would imagine, the evoker male. It's a big male lion that's walked here. I mean, I don't recall anybody. Well, I suppose I didn't drive this morning, so I don't know how fresh these actually are, but they look like they're pretty much on top of most things. So maybe he's lying up somewhere nearby. So we'll follow these for a little bit and just check where they go. You can see both front and back foot in that particular track. The front foot is kind of all obscured because the back foot has landed directly on top. So it's direct registering, which is a pretty normal gait for a male lion. It's not a male that's rushing anywhere. He's just kind of plodding along, doing his thing. So we'll just drive down the road here and just see, maybe, just maybe, if we get lucky. Maybe he's kind of just sitting. I know he likes to sit on this fire break fairly regularly. So I'll just check and see if he is still here. I heard a lion roaring. Was it last night? Maybe last night I heard one. God, all the days are melting into each other. I think it may have been last night that I heard a lion roaring in kind of central Djuma. So this could be yesterday's or last evening's tracks, and he might have moved from there. If he is around here, I suspect he'll just be sitting on the edges of the road. He could potentially be walking. His tracks are still going. I'm just trying to think when I last drove this road. I think I drove this road yesterday, maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. Like I say, the drives all melt into one these days. It becomes harder and harder to kind of remember where we drove. And also, I don't know where Trish drove, but there's no one else on the reserve, so it would have to be one of the two of us who drove this road last. I suspect... I'm just trying to see how fresh they really are. I mean, they look really good, like from this evening, good. Nice and clean, there doesn't seem to be anything on top of them. It's not easy with a spotlight while driving, but that's what it looks like. So I'll just check carefully as we go along the road here. Craig, besides being dark, what are the other challenges at night? Trying not to be blinded by the various insects in summer. In winter it's not so bad, but in summer it is horrendous. You get hit in the face all the time. You get these insects that go into your eyes. You get dung beetles that hit you full tilt. So that's never really that pleasant, if I'm honest. I'm not a huge fan of the insects. The other thing is off-roading at night becomes near impossible in this type of conditions. We've had so much rain that, you can't see in this long grass any stumps, holes, anything like that. so that makes it a little bit tougher. What else? I would say your field of view is very limited, so you've only got your headlights and your spotlight. You don't have that same periphery and kind of same awareness of your surroundings as you do during the day. That also makes it a little bit tougher. Just trying to check where he went, because it looks like he's cut off the road here. Hopefully he's not just lying next to the road, because I keep having a habit of missing lions at the moment and not seeing where they went. Okay, so Trish drove here this morning. David, did you come to the den this morning? I think this male lion must have continued and must have been from last night, early this morning, because I can't see any tracks there. It looks like the tracks are over, well, Trish's tracks are over the top of this male lion. No tracks there. Okay. I wonder if he didn't just go towards Philemon's dip. These could be last night's tracks. Like I say, it's pretty tricky to check this kind of stuff at night, the sort of freshness of a track, but there's nothing here. If it was during the day today or this afternoon, it would be on top of Trish's tracks, and I don't see any sign of that at all. So I'm going to go back quickly and I'm going to just check down towards Philemon's dip and see if he didn't go that side. Maybe he kind of moved in that direction. The Evoker male of late has been loving quarantine. He's been up on there quite a lot. So he might have just gone towards Philemon's and then turned up the dip towards the open clearing. Looking over, following tracks at night, any animals. So most animals don't follow the actual visible track. So they're not sitting with their eyes like we would to see tracks. Most of them are using their nose. So they're following a chemical track, if you want to call it that. And that can even be as much as just, let's say, this lion walking along. Another lion can walk along here, smell where that lion has been walking, because remember, they groom themselves, they urinate and scrape their back legs, so that causes urine to go on it, which leaves a chemical trace as they're walking along. So they're very capable of tracking, so to speak, using their nose rather than their eyesight. And in terms of which animals, that's pretty much all the nocturnal creatures. So you'll find that it'll be anything from lions, leopards, even things like porcupines. Anything that's active at night will use its nose in order to try and locate the other one. I think I see the tracks going up here. I just want to check where it gets a little bit softer. Although I have a sneaky suspicion these are from early hours of this morning, last night sometime, and Trish might have seen them this morning already and driven over them. She didn't tell me about any male lion tracks. No, he definitely hasn't walked here. They're like big beacons in the sand when they've been walking in a fresh area like this, or a soft area like this. He definitely hasn't gone here during the course of today or over the top of Trish's tracks. All right, so we're going to continue up towards quarantine. Let's see, maybe I'll pick up his tracks again there somewhere, I don't know. In the meantime, let's send you back across to Ngala.
So far, only thing we've managed to find was a scrub here. And we're now about to cross over the Timbavati River. And I'm actually just going to go back a little bit. I want to show you something. You wouldn't believe how much the water level has actually dropped. So, I don't know if you can actually hear the water flowing. But this is definitely the longest I've ever seen this river flow after the rains we've had. Now you can see this section where the vehicle's lights are shining it's a cement crossing, and I mean just a week ago there was still water here, and even before that the water was close to where the vehicle is now, and almost every day now the water level has been dropping and dropping and dropping, which has been quite interesting to witness, really. And it's amazing to see how the landscape and the animals have adapted to having water in a river that normally doesn't have water all year round. Seeing the storks, like black storks coming in, and little terrapins moving into this area. We've even seen kingfishers coming past here looking for little fish. I mean, it really is amazing to see how this landscape changes just for something like water. Anyway, so we're going to cross through it now and still continue for our search. A little bit further back, I did see some hyena tracks on the road, which is definitely something that we are looking for, especially at night, is when they come out walking on the roads, foraging, looking for food. Actually, just gonna stop here in the river, maybe hear some of the sounds. Some of the frogs calling. I don't know if you actually can hear that. Tessa, I think the river, difficult to say really, but probably for another week or two we'll see it flowing, then the water will stop, and there'll still be places where the riverbed is very wet and where puddles and pools have collected. But and that water will stay there for even longer. But yeah, as much as the flowing is concerned, yeah, I guess probably about 2 weeks. But we'll have to see really. I'm also really wondering. I think we all wonder every day. Nikki was just asking if I enjoy the sounds of the bush at night. Oh yes, I do. It's one of my favorite things. Even driving, when you're not speaking, you can still hear a lot of the sounds. When you get to a point, you just stop and you switch off, and you just sort of immerse yourself to everything that's around you. Really, you feel the wind blowing on your face, and you can hear all the sounds. You can smell the air. You smell different at night because of the cooler temperatures. And it really just makes you realize where you are when you hear pretty much anything calling, really. Even if it's a hippo in a riverbed or at a dam calling at night, if it's the roar of a lion, if it's the call of some of the nocturnal birds like water thickney have got the prettiest whistle, and the nightjars and all the different frogs. I mean, this place is actually so alive at night. So yes, it is. The sounds for me, the audible experience when you're out on safari in the bush is very, very tangible, really. Because obviously we can't always touch things when they're out there, but the sounds that hit us is a real connection that we do have, and that's what I really like. I just saw some elephant dung further back there. Doesn't look too fresh. I think it's from earlier this afternoon. Probably just looks like a single elephant bull that walked through here. Might have been following the scent of a herd, or it's just a single bull heading to feed on the river, on the vegetation on the banks there. And an elephant bull like that will feed probably right through the night. He'll feed up until midnight, probably take a short break. They'll sleep for a little bit and then continue feeding right through up the start of the next day. Right, well, we're still going to continue our search. We'll see if we can find anything. In the meanwhile, we're going to send you to Tristan with something interesting.
Well, it's as interesting as you're ever going to see on a night drive. It is a whole bunch of helmet shrikes that are huddled together, being accosted by insects. Do you see how there's all these insects that are landing on them, and so they're shaking their heads all the time to try and get rid of the little insects and mosquitoes or whatever it is that are probably trying to sequester moisture from their eyes. It's quite a common thing to see at night, is insects bugging animals and birds to try and get some sort of semblance of moisture off of the eyes themselves. You'd think they would rather go and do it off the ground at the moment. But these poor little birds, they've got these head shakes that's making them look as though they're on like little timers and doing some sort of weird dance. Now you can see everybody got the message bar Fred on the far left there, whose tail is in the air and his head is not facing forward. He obviously missed the memo of how to do the dance and is unfortunately facing the wrong way at this stage. Isn't it cool though? We're driving along and I just saw this white thing in the tree. I couldn't kind of work out what it was. Unfortunately, my spotlight has also died, so it's not working anymore. I don't know what's happened to it. Maybe the bulb is just gone. So I couldn't really see, and then David kind of sort of zoomed in, and it's a whole bunch of these helmet shrikes having a very horrid evening at this stage. I can sympathize with them because sitting at our dinner table is like this with the mosquitoes. And you say, oh my gosh, this is so cute. It is cute, isn't it? A whole little bundle of puffed up helmet shrikes in the dark. And it's cool that we can watch these guys, because normally if you had a spotlight, you wouldn't want to be shining on them. You know, they're roosting, they don't want to move from here. They're pretty happy where they are and safe up there. So the fact that we can actually sit with them without disturbing them is really, really cool. And they are super cute. I just love the little head shakes every now and then. And like I said, the delinquent on the far left who just doesn't seem to understand that he's facing the wrong way at this stage. It also looks like he's almost upside down. I mean, you can see the extreme angle that tail is at. His head must be kind of falling over the front end. It's very ridiculous in many ways. Shame, guys. Are you being harassed by insects? I mean, I can't tell if that's the bird for no or yes with their heads moving like that. I wonder what the insects are. I can't make them out. They almost look mosquito-like in there. I mean, maybe some of you at home that's got bigger screens that can actually see. I mean, the screen I'm looking at is tiny, so are those little insects. But they do look mosquito-like. I don't think these birds are going to get a wink of sleep with this amount of insects around them. They've chosen, obviously, a bad spot. It's very exposed where they are. You can see there's no leaves around them at all. It's a little dead branch that's sticking off of the tree. I wonder if that's kind of contributed to them being found so easily. They've got very white feathers. So against a dark background and a night where we're approaching the full moon, it's quite bright out here. And, we know that a lot of insects are attracted to various forms of light. And so maybe they just kind of, the lighter sort of feathers are attracting them to go and sit there. And it is a serious amount of insects all over these poor little birds.
February is the month of love, and nature is no exception. Tristan and Trishala will be igniting the flame to discuss the bonds formed in the African wild. Sign up to become an explorer and join them by the fire on Sunday, the 28th of February. WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
Our bodies are made up of about 60% water, which means that in a very short space of time, you can dehydrate completely. A relatively efficient way of collecting water early in the morning is to take an absorbent material like a sock and to walk through the grass, absorbing the condensed dewdrops on the grass. Once the material is saturated, you can then squeeze it out into a container, or you can suck it out directly into your mouth.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at WildEarth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you're going to have to register on the website, but once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
What makes andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Well, as you can see, we're still with our little helmet shrikes who are having a really bad time of it. What are these insects? Are they mosquitoes? Because I've never heard of mosquitoes bothering birds like this. And it must be that it's particularly their heads that they're going towards, because you see the rest of their body doesn't move at all. It's just the heads that are shaking. The feet are tucked in. Even if you look at the one that's got its tail in the air, good old Fred, he's not moving his tail, so it's not the body that's taking any punishment. The feathers seem to be protecting that. Maybe it's because, these helmet shrikes have a bare facial patch around those eyes, that these mosquitoes can actually harvest blood from that. I don't know. I can't make out what they are. If it's a mosquito or maybe just a little midge of some sort, I would imagine it must be mosquitoes. And given how my ankles feel like they're on fire right now, it seems to stand to reason that there's many a mosquito around. They've been particularly bad the last couple of days. Them and the ticks. I got hammered by ticks 2 days ago, trying to track the lumber down with that kill when we followed it through that long grass. So I can sympathize with these guys in the way that they kind of keep shaking. You also might see a little flash every now and then. That's lightning in the distance. I'm really hoping we're not going to get major rain again. We've had really enough of late. We need a bit of a break from the rain and allow us to kind of continue our drives the way that we have this week. It's been so pleasant to be able to drive roads again, to start off-roading again, to start kind of being able to access much larger sections of the reserve. It really has improved our game viewing exponentially because of it, and we've been spoiled. I mean, the cats have been good to us, even when we didn't have a lot of space to move and it was still very wet. We still managed to somehow get by, thanks to everybody kind of coming out and being on roads or trees or mounds. It's made our life a lot easier. This is going to be one of the coolest nocturnal sightings I've had, though. So epic. All right, well, it's that time of the evening where we need to say goodbye to all of you. We're going to head home and get out of the firing line of the million mosquitoes that are hovering around our feet at the moment and around these guys. Hopefully you've had a wonderful afternoon with us and enjoyed the lions, the leopards, these guys, and the cute little cubs from Ngala. So from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you tomorrow morning